Hello, Jim here. Just to remind you that if you do enjoy listening to us talk about comics and enjoy comics in general, which I hope that you do, you should go and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/WeirdScience. Not only does it help us out for what we do, but it also ends up giving you a ton of exclusive podcasts as well. And I mean a ton of them. So if you like listening to podcasts, you love comics, it is something that I would love for you to check out. And to do that, you can go over right now, and there is a free 7-day free trial where you can check it out. No fuss, no muss. Again, it's patreon.com/WeirdScience. And I hope to see you all over there. But let's get into this week's show.
Hello and welcome back to the only show that breaks down, cracks up, skews, and reviews each week's DC Comics. I'm the fourth man, Eric Shea.
And I'm Jim Warner.
And this is the Weird Science DC Comics Podcast, episode number 511.
511, legacy number 511, and you are not the money man.
I'm the money man.
Then again, lately, I guess the money man's the drummer. You play the drums? You a big drummer now?
I like to bang on these drums all day.
Oh, you do? You are a Todd Rundgren fan. I see. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast, all you weirdos of the Get Fresh crew.
Boo.
We have a plethora of books, 6 books tonight, all of them kind of a little wacky. I said to Eric that there's a weird theme
I don't recall
going
this.
on through these books, the theme of not much happening in these books. So we'll see. We'll probably find some things to skew and reviewer, as you say. But if you want to read written reviews of all these things from my man Gabe, you can go over to our website, WeirdScienceDCComics.com. And then while you're doing that, why not check out our YouTube channel, Weird Science Comics? And then last but not least, go over and join or at least check out our Patreon. I'd love it if everybody would join patreon.com/WeirdScience, where you can get exclusive podcasts and all sorts of things, including this podcast.
What kind of things?
This podcast, early access. Each week you get it a day early and maybe $1 short. But Eric's the money man, so maybe not $1 short.
That's right.
I'm not so sure with that. Now, each week, one of the big things we do on the Patreon is we have a badass Patreon-only spotlight show where we have 2 books. They are picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew in a poll on the Patreon where all the books are up for grabs. They end up picking them this week. They picked 2 number 1s that might have equaled a number 2, Eric. Oh, my.
I did that joke.
I did it on the Patreon, though. I'm talking to the people who aren't on the Patreon. Yes, I just was reacting to the Fast and the Furious going by your house right there. Holy crap. But the 2 books they picked, the 2 number 1s, were Speed Force number 1 and Outsiders number 1. And me and Eric had fun talking about those. We talked the Speed Force book, not great, but we talked about the things that it could end up being if we were writing it. But even so, we had fun and also discussing the idea of the Outsiders, the Lansing and Kelly book, being a planetary/authority update reboot in a really odd way. So if you want to hear us talk about that about an hour and a half, that show was, go over to the Patreon. Again, patreon.com/Weird Science. And if you want to get mad at the badasses of the Get Fresh crew for picking those 2 number 1s, I'm going to now give you I'm going to dox them. I'm going to dox their asses. This is the roll call, Eric. Also, I might do a little rap, a little mumble rap. I'm Mumblebee. The Music Meister got a hold of me to get on his stupid app. David Bink, Trevor, Dad Nation, yo, Eric K, Jeffrey Greek, Xenomorph, Stephen Bat Dad Mitchell, the Annihilator, Ted Probst, I Love Punchline, Stork, Michael S, Cam, Matt Razor, Niels T-Wart, Stephen Baum, Jason Colby, Sue42, to you and me, Eric, Michael G. I go off the script that I messed up. I was doing so well. Ken Halleck, Comic Boom Rocky, Scary Potter. You're like one of those people who keep the decorations up. We gotta change it.
Halloween every day.
Jager, Bill Beer from the Bat Pod, Ruben, Carlos, No Wolf Marv, Matthew Ray Pierre, Luke Hollywood. We might hear from Luke Hollywood later. I'm not sure. Luke gets drunk and falls asleep a lot. Simon, Luis, Manship, Andrew Belfast, Swanee, Anthony G, Josh Million, Batman Beyond Mark, Brandy Murray, that's B. Muir up in Buffalo, Canada, and doxing his ass in Minnesota. Double A run. And for the big shout out, RIP to the greats, Reggie, and Rob Lewis. This is like a fine oiled machine, Eric. That's what I say. I'm actually very lubed up right now, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean, Eric. This last day or two, I forget when it was, somebody had clogged up the toilet. This somebody isn't me, before you ask. I went to go to the bathroom. It was clogged up to the extreme. So I go to plunge it out, which I shouldn't have to, right? I end up going to do that, Eric. And the plunger we have is this crazy thing with this, like, crazy handle mechanism, like pump action.
Why are you reinventing the freaking plunger?
That's my point. There's no reason. It's really the lazy person's plunger, because instead of having to plunge, you put it in and pull. It doesn't work. I'm trying to do that. Now, in the meantime, just like the space shuttle, I think there was a seal missing. I know usually you on a vacation like to blow a seal now and again. But I ended up where I went down, like pushed down, right? Then I pushed back up to do the action, and ship water sprayed out of the top and right into my face. I had my mouth open. It was the worst. And I'm telling you, since then, my mouth has been numb. It's just numb, and it's awful, and I think I might have dysentery. Is that what you get from that sort of thing? Dysentery? I think I got that. I think I might have pink eye. I also might have hepatitis. And
then you walk around and punch everybody in the house.
Crazy deal. Oh, I was yelling. And then Tanya comes, why are you screaming? I'm like, screaming. And she looked at me. I still had shit water on my glasses. On my glasses, Eric. I'm like, this is why I'm screaming.
Clean yourself up.
Then I said, where is the damn plunger? The regular plunger. Oh, well, we threw that one away because this one works so much better. I'm like, it does not. I am covered in shit water. It doesn't work. I'd also
like to imagine it works perfectly for everybody else and you just screwed it up somehow.
She ended up going and she plunged it and it worked like a charm, Eric. But still, it's because I ended up doing it too strong, she said. I was too muscular.
That's what she said.
Plus, the thing is, you have to get it right on, the hole.
I know how a plunger works.
But with the other plunger, we had this really big plunger that you just put it in and go to town. It works. I mean, got rid of that.
How a plunger works.
Remember back in the day, buddy, when he was there, that plunger worked great. Not this one. This one sprayed water. I think they had it rigged. They punked me. Eric, is what happened. Chris Angel is what I got. But oh my goodness.
Is that how it works? Punked Chris Angel?
Yeah, it was punked Chris Angel. David Blaine himself showed up. Oh, instead of sleeping on a block of ice for a month, I just had shit water in my face. I was so angry. I'm still angry, but nobody would admit it was theirs. And,
That's why you punch everybody.
I should have done some forensics. I'm like, well, I do see some corn here. And
what is wrong with you?
I didn't do that, Eric. I didn't do that at all. I ended up just like shaking my head and walking upstairs and laying down as if it was in a coffin. Because I just wanted to die, Eric. But
He's a Draculus.
That's the beginning. That's the thing. I think I was the Draculus. I was the Freddy Cougars. But here we are. I'm trying to pump myself up here. Up.
All that riz that Dracula has comes from all that shit water running down his face.
That is true. I will tell you, I should have said as we started, can we go back? Can we rewind the beginning? Instead of me saying Jim Warner, I should have said, I'm the bad guys going against Wesley DODDS. And that would have been good. You get what I mean? Because they were all hepped up on the amphetamines, Eric. They were raring to go.
Meth?
Woo-wee. Maybe meth, whatever. Those Nazis, they were big on that. But hey, that's that, Eric. Hey, we have a podcast. You were mad at me because I said, boy, this one's going to go quick. I want to reiterate that. So I jinx it all, and everybody gets a meaty and long podcast, Eric. You thought I was going to say something different.
Really didn't.
That is that. We're going to go off to these books, starting with a bit of, Batman. Find out if he's hung or not, Eric. I thought we found that out before, but we're going to find out again right about now. All right, Eric, and here we are. We have a bunch of books. And actually, besides that story saying that Ram V is boring, I'm not really bored with this detective story. This whole thing with Batman being hung, it's just the idea that I just can't get my head around why it's being allowed. And me and you talked before we started, not in Gotham. I'm not saying the idea of, oh, Jim, well, have you ever heard of the thalamus engine? What we like to call the reality engine. Oh. It's so great. Like, even that, where they're playing it off. I don't know, when this issue starts, they even start playing that idea. That sounds a lot like Fear State. It's starting to kind of sound like other things, but what is the rest of the nation, the world doing? Because remember,
don't worry about Gotham. It's a cesspool.
Here's the thing. It's a cesspool. Well, so is Cleveland. So is Detroit. Forgive me if you live there. Just say you're there. All of a sudden we find out not just that they're hanging somebody in Detroit, but the person doing is from like Czechoslovakia. I mean, these people end up just showing up with a deed. They could even just be from Ireland. They show up with a deed to the land of Arkham, and now all of a sudden they're hanging people. I don't know where you go from one to the other, and you can't tell me this.
They're greasing the palms of Nakano.
How much? Yeah, Nakano is a mayor. Right, Nakano is a mayor. A mayor doesn't allow you to say, "Oh, what? You want to do a death penalty hanging in our?" Okay, well that sounds cool. Give me another $5. I'll look the other way with my one eye.
It's cheap,
but here we go. It's really ridiculous, and this is one of the things that, when all was said and done with the Gotham War, the idea of setting it up if Catwoman thinks that Batman is going to go along for robbing the rich, and you're never going to get past that. In this, if I did center on just the idea of, well, they're going to hang. Remember, and I said even during our spotlight this week when we were talking about the books coming up, the idea that they say, well, it works because technically we're not hanging a man. We're hanging a symbol. I'm like, no.
That's right.
You're hanging a man.
He could be a Draculus.
He might be, but if he's a Draculus, I still don't know that you're allowed to just decide to hang the guy just because.
Look, if I come across a Draculus, I might be hanging him no matter what you say.
But that's not going to kill him, Eric. If you would know things about the Draculus, you would know this. So,
well, you're thinking of movie stuff.
Oh, that is true. But again, what you would usually get for this, and when for some reason this issue, it really dawned on me the idea, like, why aren't you just doing the, hey, look who's Batman deal, where you'll reveal his identity? Because that's what we usually get.
Because that's a man. We need a symbol to hang for the Thalamus engine.
I start thinking, well, he's not quite connected to Wayne Industries anymore. Maybe the stocks will go up eventually, because we had to remember that when they were voting on if Batman dead. It's just silly. Now, in that though, I like some of it. It's just that this issue, second of a 5-issue little interlude, he said, you don't do much. And I'm starting to think that maybe we didn't need 5 issues all around, but that's a Ram V
the idea that where this jumps out at you, like, this issue really got you the idea of, like, why would anybody outside of Gotham allow this to go on? Whether or not it's Gotham or not, outside should be coming in and saying, what are you guys doing over here? This is crazy. It really dawned on me this issue, and I'm sure we've talked about it in the past during Ram V's Detective Comics runs, that it really just feels, with everything we've seen so far, that I don't know why Ram V got this job, because he doesn't want to write about Batman.
I know.
Like anybody but every time Batman shows up to do anything in this book, he's knocked out for a day or two, maybe a few weeks, and somebody else has to clean up after his mess. I feel like we got one issue where he, was kicking ass and taking names, and then after that, it's like, all right, back to the way like other people. It was the one right
before Night Terrors, and that's what caused this shit. He ended up finally getting off his ass. He's down below. He's fighting. He ends up stopping the reality engine or whatever the hell ended up blowing up the Oregon place, whatever the hell that was, and now he's back to there. And I will point out, now that you say that, it makes me giggle, because for the longest time, we're going through this Ram V Detective, and you kept yelling, all he's doing is laying on Gordon's couch. That's all you kept saying. All he's doing is sleeping and recovering on Gordon's couch, and it's true. But yet, if you hear fans of this run and fans of Ram V, they think that this is like, oh my God, he really gets Batman. But is that what Batman is? Just somebody who's always hurt and recovering? Maybe.
Somehow, back in the day when we had Nightfall coming out, when Bane was first introduced, the whole idea of Bane was, I'm going to blow up Arkham Asylum, send all of these crazies out and about to really, drive Batman down, run him ragged, because on top of this, Batman was already sick. He did more in that than he is in this, and the whole idea was to make sure that he was run down ahead of time before Bane actually took him out. This one, he showed up tired.
Here's the thing. I think that during the middle of R.I.P., he did more in Gotham. He wasn't even there, Eric. He was lost in time. I mean, it's crazy how little he is doing. Now you're getting me riled up, because I'm just going with that crazy idea of they're literally hanging a guy in the center square here, right? And I don't mean Paul Lynn. I mean in the middle of Gotham. They're hanging, and yet everybody's fine with it beyond just the rabble in Gotham who are there for, they want to be entertained. They're there for a show.
Well, that's the thing, is you can say the idea of, like, we have the reality engine that's influencing everybody in Gotham, that's allowing this to happen, the organs to take complete power. Except for the people who aren't in this whole thing that we're going to grab to rescue Batman.
That's
They're
true,
fine.
too, yeah. Why aren't they? It's very odd. It seems to then be tied into the asthma, but then it's with arson, and then it's with Shadhat, and I start thinking that I'm speaking in tongues, Eric. It's Detective Comics number
activated the Manchurian Candidate.
77. Written by Ram V, art by Jason Sean Alexander, Dave Stewart, and Ariana Mayer. And then there's a backup by Dan Waters and Casper Wynyard and Steve Wands, but we'll get to that.
Best thing Dan Waters has ever written.
I told you to read it. And just to let everybody know, we usually do skip the backups in this because they're mind benders again. And I ended up reading through this earlier, and I said, I think that you'll actually like the backup, or at least it's good enough to actually talk about, because it does deal with some things that we wanted to see. So in that, you start out, and I do like cast. I don't know. That's the problem. When does this happen?
Imagine this. Batman takes place in the past. This takes place, 6 months after Batman, and the Green Arrow books takes place, a year after this?
Maybe. And where does the Batman and Robin book take place? Now we're playing like bingo, because I don't know. And I remember when I was trying to remember the thing of where Ram V said about, oh man, it takes place in the future. It was the idea that it took that Oregon place 6 months to build. That was definitely what he said, though never said it in the book. He just said it on Twitter. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But in this, you said you weren't confused. I was. I wish that you started out with 3 days from now, because I'm like, oh shit, they didn't say Batman. He's getting hung already. And I do like the play of, Jason Alexander's art. Jason Alexander, I like to call him George Costanza, but he ends up where it does want to play the idea of kind of a past, kind of almost like, a 1778 or whatever we had when we had the reality engine. You have a dark look, but it does feel like at points it's supposed to look a little older, but also you got the blimps going around. There's a lot of crazy things, but I do like the first couple pages, the art. You get the long, giant ears, all that going on. And maybe you could even play it out that you're being affected yourself by the reality engine, by the asthma. This is how they're seeing it. They're seeing Batman, almost like when you get the fear toxin, all of a sudden Batman's this horrific deal, that they're seeing it as this, because the people are angry, down with the bat. The problem is that I don't know that the Organs needed any sort of engine. By the end, it'll be the classic where they go, oh, turn off the reality engine. Oh, my God, it was never on in the first place, because Batman has lost the city.
Or M. Night Shyamalan.
Exactly. Batman has lost Gotham so many times that he is, what does he do? He needs to leave. He really does. The idea that he's skedaddling a bit in Batman, he just needs to tell everybody to go screw themselves and leave Gotham, because they're always turning on him. They're always this. It only takes a little bit of tech or whatever to do that. But I guess there's state.
You're right. We got to go from this to Batman Off-World, where he goes in outer space for a while. Just get out of Gotham.
I would. So he's going to be hung. I think that's a really cool panel when you see him there with the noose, things like that. I'll tell you, I like the art at the beginning. It starts to wear on me by the end of this issue. Now, we have a Ocean's 11 kind of going on. You end up having Selina. She's gathering
put the crew together for a heist. What are you stealing? The Batman.
The Batmans. Now, we could have a big argument over what we think and how long you think in a heist movie is the let's gather the crew. We have 5 issues. We're 2 in, and we're still kind of gathering the crew and sitting around. And I think that we need to start doing some things this issue.
Well, thankfully, the crew all takes place in one city, so we don't have to waste too much time because we're all in one place.
True. But you gathered a crew, and now they're just sitting around.
We gathered half the crew. We still need to get a Solomon Grundy and an Azrael.
Yeah, I think we're taking a bit too long. The way that Ram V goes, I don't know that we're going to get a satisfying 5 tight issues of this whole play, because he meanders. He ends up wanting to have, over narration. There's narration. It's not the worst that he's had, but there are some dialogue lines. There's some stuff from Catwoman that seems a little bit too fancy. It starts to seem like Ram V wants to, impress himself and get everybody, oh, this isn't just going to be one of those, heist movies, or we're not just going to go on Prison Break. We need to get it fancy. But I think there could be some real fun here. but we are just kind of sitting around. We're sitting around with everybody. Gordon's there, and we're going to get the play of, I'm not working with him. I'm not working with her. I'm not doing that. But I was excited because as you have this, you get to see the lay of the land. Everybody's getting drunk off their ass too, Eric. And then they say, by the way.
That's like the idea. You think somebody having one drink is getting drunk off their ass?
Off their ass. So it's, hey, we got to introduce another person. And this is a cool play. This is what makes those kind of heist, the whole thing where there's going to be somebody that might fit the job, but you never want to work with them. You did. So
Mr. Freeze.
And it's right away that it's Mr. Freeze, right? So he goes in, it's Mr. Freeze. And I really like that. Now, I wish that it was finally...
I don't think before the door opened that I would think Mr. Freeze, but if you think of everything we've had so far in Ranvi's run, Mr. Freeze is the only logical answer because it's the only other character that has shown up in this run so far.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I actually, when I was reading it, I swear to God, and I just looked, I swear to God, it's like, hey, listen, we need a cool cat. Something like that. They didn't say that. But when you see the mist coming out and the free...
See, even that, I focused on when you said cat and not cool.
Yeah, it was the cool. Well, because she's a cat, it works out both.
And we already have 2 cats.
So, yeah, it's true. So she opens up the deal, and Gordon...
3 cats.
Gordon loses his mind. I mean, this guy, he was the commissioner. And I don't mean just of Gotham. He was a horrific monster. But yet he's throwing shade. He's throwing shade all around.
That wasn't his fault.
He's young. I like the play here, but I thought we were finally going to get something that we always wanted.
I'm sorry. I'm just going through the idea about, because we have Aiko Hasegawa, we have Cheshire, her daughter Leanne Harper, who goes by Cheshire Cat when she's not going by shoes, and we have Catwoman.
I didn't like the art for Cassandra. I didn't know that was Cassandra at first. It's a little older looking. The deal.
No, thing is, it doesn't look anything like Cass, except for when Aiko's like Kane. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. I thought it was like Kane the wrestler. It's like, holy shit.
You thought that? So you thought it was the big red machine out of nowhere?
Actually, for some reason, at one point before the deal, I kind of thought, well, what happened if they got David? What happened if they got her dead? That'd be crazy. But I think he's dead. Right?
He's dead.
I think he got thrown in a pit. But when you're having all that and Jade's getting drunk off her ass, when Mr. Freeze shows up, I thought this was going to be, and it's something that me and you, it's very personal to me and you. It's something that we always talk about. We talked about it during Forever Evil. We talk about it, all the things when Batman died, when he died at the end of the New 52, and we ended up having the Bat Bunny of Gordon, that we wanted to have the villains kind of say, listen, that's bullshit. That's my guy. You can go almost like a family where you can yell and scream about your family members, but the minute somebody else comes in and says it, you flip out. We always wanted the villains to be on the deal of we need Batman. Batman does this, that. And then it's just like Mr. Freeze is just like, yeah, I need some shit that's down there. I want to get some stuff from the organs.
Well,
I wish it was more
too
like
also kind of feels like what we had during Forever Evil with the Arkham War, where Bane put on the Batman persona to rile in all of the freaking the villains out there because they're only afraid of the Bat and they weren't afraid of Bane, so he's going to put on some Batman clothes.
And I just like the idea that maybe Mr. Freeze is like, listen, we talked about this a while, especially when Batman died. The idea of how dare somebody else kill him? I should have been the one. I'm going to go and do this, and maybe you could save him that way. But when you have all this, and I know you can play it off any way you want, whatever. Where's Damian? Where's Nightwing? Where are they?
I think instead of having Mr. Freeze show up because he's the only other person in this book that wasn't in this room at this moment, the idea of Red Hood showed up with everything they've gone through. He's the one guy who's there for Batman. I think that would have been a bigger
really
reveal.
Good. Yeah, it would have been great. And also we'd find out, well, actually, he's cured from...
And then you can bring in Ravager and Manhunter and have a great team.
You could bring in all of them, and you could have connected. Now, I know that all the books aren't really connected that great, but if you're going to connect this, you could have even had, if this is 6 months in the future, whatever it might be, where you end up, Catwoman calls Jason and says, hey, can you help? And hey, you were worried about me 6 months ago. You could have nailed that down. But also, again, don't you think that Nightwing would have something to say about this? Especially because Oracle's part of the deal. Oracle, though, is part of this.
Yeah, she still lives here.
Yeah, is she not, getting a hold of her guy? Right? Does he got Titan? Maybe they just have Titan stuff going on. It's
she calls up, she gets the voicemail. It's like, hey there, my guy. What's going on? Batman's being hung. Oh, wait, I'm going to hang up the phone. Hopefully he doesn't listen to that message because I just remembered he's doing Beast World stuff.
Yeah, he's right now. Oh, I get Damian, but he's a cat. You can't get him. He's a cat.
Is he a cat?
But I think he was, so he'd fit.
Is everybody a cat in your mind?
Yeah, I think he's
a cool cat.
I remember seeing the deal because they had that crazy meme where it's the cat and then the lady mad.
I'm telling you, I'm still sitting here. I don't know anything about Beast World
Davey
right
would have
now.
worked out. He's the cat boy. He's there. Seriously, though, I know that it's kind of he should have been Bat Boy. I mean, Bat Boy from the National Enquirer would have been great. See him. Where's Damien? He's coming out from the basement with the door open. That Bat Boy down.
But he's a Robin.
But he's a cat, Eric. He would have fit. I don't get it. But you could have done more. It's a weird play. Again, maybe there's a step too far, but in the play of at least mention it. Mention something. Because this is too big, and like we said, it's even too big for the rest. I'm not even talking superheroes. I'm talking government that says, yeah, foreign dignitaries can't just come on American soil and hang people.
I don't give a shit about the government and stuff like that. I want to know everybody who's in Gotham, like the entire Bat family. I know that Batman's been a dick lately and says, I need to be by myself for a while. And Brood, I don't need to be a part of a Bat family. But where's Duke Thomas? Stephanie Brown, anybody that's involved with the Bat family at all. If you want to, I could even just throw Nightwing out there because he could be busy doing, Beast World stuff. I don't know, but there's other people in Gotham that are big people in Gotham that would say, hey, I kind of want to help my mentor.
Yeah, Tim Drake. And again, like
maybe
you said,
they are off on the sidelines and Catwoman just didn't get him for the crew.
No, and like you said, the idea, but I think that it'd be funny at the end. Catwoman's like, oh no, we didn't make it to the gallows. And you just see the Bat family just come in and grab him and run. But the idea Jason Todd would have been perfect.
When Batman's being walked out for that little future look to where he's going right to the gallows, about to have the noose put around his neck. All I could think about when I saw that was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, or any Robin Hood iteration where he's going to get hung, and all of a sudden an arrow's going to come and hit the rope, and I'm like,
Roy Harper,
Hunterson or crossbow.
Oliver, crossbow. You could do it, right? I just thought of I guess they got Kelly Jones to dress that as so because he looks just like that, which I thought was neat. It looked neat in there. But again, it's a weird play because, like you said, there is that weird gray area. And you could say, well, maybe Tim Drake is there, but the thalamus engine, it's going and it's changing his mind. But why isn't it changing Catwoman's or Jade's? Or so there is that weird play. Maybe you have to get drunk and then it doesn't affect you. They're all
maybe you have to be from Alleytown.
Maybe. I mean, Alleytown's so disgusting. Like me personally, I could go in there, shit water in my mouth there. I'm in. I am now inoculated.
I agree.
The vaccine. So you have all that going on. I like the crew enough. It just makes me wonder why this crew. And I get most of it.
We're still going to get Poison Ivy doing stuff, right?
Poison Ivy was part of the idea of I need somebody. She said she doesn't want to be part of the crew, but they needed her to do something with the plan. So, yeah, I expect to see more from her. And even the idea that you're going and Cheshire says, hey, Solomon Grundy got me out. And we see that in the background as well. And me and you love Solomon Grundy. We love having him, do things, even though after we recorded our Patreon's file, I think it was afterwards, we were talking about Solomon Grundy a bit.
I thought it was during.
Kind of. Might be, but I can't remember. But the idea that we want Solomon Grundy to maybe get killed, get resurrected as something badass, right?
He needs to become a gigantic brute again who's not a team player or a friendly uncle in the sewer.
Yeah, we like that, but it's gone too long. And I think that a good play would be for him to come back and then just go and kick Poison Ivy out of his shack. Get out of the shack, bitch! And then he's got it back, and we're like, oh my God, he really means something now.
And now it's Solomon Grundy versus Killer Croc, because Killer Croc's claimed that shack as well.
And again, where are all the other villains? What do they think of this and stuff like that? You always have that kind of, not a full-blown, hey, we have to go to each of the people. Yeah, there's a lot of characters that might have an issue with all of this, but...
Well, because Two-Face was a part of this story and then just kind of disappeared after Harvey told Two-Face who Batman's identity was and Two-Face saved Batman. Because Batman can't do anything himself in the series.
I think the theme of tonight for this whole show is going to be books that kind of forget what they were doing before and then just do other shit, maybe. But when you're doing... What do you think happens with Nakano? I mean, this guy... He's got to be ousted. He has to be taking so much money, all that, and he's just Nakano, whatever. But what about the GCPD? And what about Renee Montoya, a character that I like? Like, what are they doing? Are they being paid
She's asking
off?
questions.
She is asking, but not the right ones, I guess. So what is going on with them? It's very odd. But Catwoman
the thing is, you say that. I have never understood the entire Arkham thing from the get-go. Like you said, the idea they come in, they've got a deed to where the Arkham, Asylum's land was from, centuries ago. And all of a sudden, we're just building gigantic skyscrapers in the middle of Gotham, and there's goddamn demons being put in people's head by a werewolf. I don't know what's happening in this book. And now we just have an entire city on their side to go hang Batman for no reason, except for, hey, that guy, he took that building down that you might have liked, but nobody ever knew what it was.
Yeah, everybody was partying outside, but didn't know what it was. But again, you could say that the reality engine. We certainly did not.
And again, I don't know what the reality engine is at this point in time because it was set up back in the 1600s to be a thing that's going to be like the guide stone for how Gotham's going to be. It was tainted by a Batman of that time. So ever since then, there's always going to be this Batman mythology and this theme running throughout Gotham's timeline. We need to change that now, but I don't know what that does to the current timeline and the way things work with the reality engine right now before we change things.
And that's part of the reason that this drives me nuts. Even though some of the bits here I don't mind. I think they're kind of cool. They could be cool.
Getting a crew together is kind of cool, but that's
always
about it.
Is cool, right? There's not one person that's like, son of a bitch, I'm in. That's what we need. But throughout all this, you have that play that you talk about with the Speed Force. You talk about with magic. You talk about there is a thing in place.
Maybe with the emotional spectrum soon.
There's a thing in place where you can just fudge anything you want. You can make it do whatever you want because it is. And that's the thing. Why would you, as Ramsey, nail it down? Well, yeah, why would you explain it fully? Because then it limits it. It's limitless right now where you can just, he's not even mentioning it. And the only way that I can explain things in my head sometimes is saying it must be that. So it's on me. So he can even say, well, that's your fault, jerk off.
Where's wrong turn saying must be thalamus engine.
Reality engine. Oh, that'll be coming up in between
breaks.
Go. I'm telling you right now. So you have all that going down, but I do like Mr. Freeze joining in and says, listen, I know you don't trust me, and I really don't care. I want to get what I'm going to get.
You shouldn't trust me, but I want something, so
I want something. I'm going to get it. So, and there are some shady characters on this team, which is pretty cool. And then you just go then and, okay, we got the team together. Let's kind of start working out the plan. Let's start seeing things. Solomon Grundy's mentioned. Catwoman's like, hey, I got to go do some other things.
You guys go down into the sewers, go get Solomon Grundy. You guys go do some other stuff. I got some shit to do.
And the shit is going to the old Arkham ruins where they have said they have Batman in prison below, sneaking in, breaking in, and then, of course, going through vents. I mean, anything Catwoman now is vent-centric. And then goes down to kind of kiss Batman and whisper in his ear. And the idea that she needs to go down there and tell Batman, like, this is part of the plan. Hey, Batman, we're going to save you. Bye-bye. And all this does to me is alert every single person that you're doing this.
You don't know about the situation because Catwoman being Catwoman was able to bypass all the cameras, get in here without anybody knowing that she was in there. But what she didn't count on was the demon asthma in the Batman's mind that allowed Gale Tencaller, the Wolfman, to know things of that's going on in his mind. And oh my God, Catwoman must have been here because me being the Wolfman saw it in my mind from Batman's mind.
And so in Ramsey's mind, though, he thinks, okay, before they save Batman, they even say at one point, oh, they're going to try to save him. They'll do it right when we're going to execute him. But in the meantime, she actually does break in to where he's being held. I guess you can't really grab him and pull him through the vents. The big play, though, in all this that maybe it points out, but Ramsey's always so subtle, is the idea that what do you do when you save him? He's infected by the asthma. We don't know how that changes.
You got a magic music box that's doing something somewhere.
Yeah. So when she does, but it feels like the craziest thing where what does happen, whether she thinks it will or not, because somehow she becomes, I don't know, magic-based, that she can end up avoiding being filmed? I don't even get it.
She's a cat burglar. The thing is, bullshit. She can just avoid the cameras. No, it's not bullshit. Thieves do it all the time.
There would be one camera that you need to have here. That would be on Batman. There is no way they don't have a camera on Batman, and she's there hugging and kissing him. Look, that's what I'm saying. He's fudging it. There's no way what are you going to have a camera down the hall in the bathroom? You're going to have a camera at the inside and the outside of the store and on Batman. There's the cameras, but they don't, but they kind of say they did. And then they say, well, we should have been able to see whoever it was. I think it's the Catwoman. Yes, it is, because out of nowhere, again, you fudge things by suddenly Gale Tenclaw, the Wolfman, He says, because of the asthma, I'm able to see what Batman sees and thinks. What? Where did that come from? Why are you making up stuff
he's
like
still
that?
fighting the asthma inside him. So he's not fully controlled by the asthma to the point where Dale Tenclaw can understand what's exactly going on through his eyes and mind, but he can read some thoughts as the asthma looks into his mind and tries to break in, and he was having thoughts of the Catwoman.
Yeah, so, but you're almost getting mouth monsters again, as we said. You see through the rage, and you see, why are you fudging stuff like this? This is just a story that you are going to save Batman from being hung. You don't have to get that crazy with this part here. I don't even know why we had this part, except Randy wants to maybe get some points for having Catwoman go and say, hey, I love you there, Bat.
I love you, the Batmans. I'm going to get you out, babies.
I whisper in your ears all the time, the Batmans, and doesn't really do anything. Even then, it's like they almost play the idea of, oh my God, she must have told the Batman. She didn't tell him shit. She said, we'll save you. I whispered to you.
Told him everything.
We've had our deal. And then go. But again, what is happening in this issue? I do like as she then goes out and then starts riding her motorcycle. Like nobody can film her. And then you have to have the play because recently, Gotham War, Teenie Howard, that Catwoman has now been pushed as the greatest criminal in all of the universe. So you get that play of, she's only a cat burglar, just so she can end up saving him by the end. But it's very odd. Also, I want to point out, it's funny saying that this is in the future. Obviously, we had that play of, okay, Catwoman looked like she died. She came back, and it does look like she's going to have powers, but we don't see that here. I guess she's keeping
also,
them
it looks
on
like
the down
gallows where Batman's going to be hung is right outside of the old Arkham ruins, and not like in Center City like we thought it was going to be. So maybe because they own the property, they can hang whoever the fuck they like. You step on my ground, you're a trespasser, you're getting hung.
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh.
It would be funny if they're like, because Batman has the asthma, they're like, okay, how this is going to play. We have to get him out of the property. Then we'll have hey, don't you step on my property. I feel threatened. Take him to the gallows.
Stand your ground, Orgums.
Doesn't make any sense. She zips around. Maybe she should just set fire to the gallows. That'd be pretty cool. Also looks like there's a bunch of
new gallows.
There's a bunch of hangers on. They just seem like they're hanging there. It's like, a concert's coming up.
Well, I imagine those are the guards. They're just kind of like, layabouts a little bit.
Positioning there. I'm like, I don't know. They kind of look like they're just milling about.
They're on the break.
It looks like between bands at the Lilith Fair. You kind of, hey, let's go check out that, deal and whatnot, right? You're doing that. It's like Woodstock. It's going to be all muddy. So she ends up from there, and then she thinks, okay, well, we're going to have to, that was just a pit stop. I got to go tell Batman that we're going to save him, even though he's kind of infected by the asthma, but he can still hear it, even though I don't know. But then Gail Tenclaw will hear it from him through the mind. But in the meantime, I got to go find another person, the last person that we need on our team. And it's so funny because, of course, it's somebody that Eric hates, and it's Azrael. Looks cool, though. I mean, he's there, and he's just burning people. He's just ripping through Gotham for some reason.
Outside of this whole thing, I don't know what Azrael's been doing. Apparently he's been hanging out with Father Valley. He's been hanging out with Vengeance. But he's in Gotham essentially murdering people, and Batman's allowing this to go down still. But obviously, he's been busy with some things. But come on, how long has Azrael been back in Gotham just murdering folk?
Well, you figure that almost like a failsafe when all of a sudden Batman kills somebody. It's that the minute that Batman seems like he might die, Azrael gets a message. Oh, shit, battle for the cow, bitches. And he heads back to Gotham and just starts slicing people.
Even in that one thing that we read with, it was a backup, I believe it was, where he's rebuilding, it looks like, the As-Bat suit from Nightfall.
Well, there you go. Azrael. It's so weird.
The thing is, we're doing so much Reign of the Superman stuff, we got to do Nightfall over again?
Well, that's all we're doing. We're doing all the classics, Eric, all the classics. But, at the end, you end up where there's Catwoman. It's like, yeah, I kind of wanted to get this big armored guy with a vengeance and a flaming sword.
Sean Paul Valley should have stayed dead.
Yeah, I even think that the idea of this, it better not be so clear-cut that Azrael's like, all right, he's the one who goes, son of a bitch, I'm in. That doesn't feel right to me. I don't think he would get involved in this. I think that he would not want to be involved with characters that are involved in it.
Oh, yeah, he's going to have a problem with that, it feels like. But maybe the whole thing going forward where the Organs get what they want to a degree where Azrael takes Batman's place and he's hung. And then I could be happy that Azrael's dead while he's in the Azbat suit. And then Batman could go back to being something that's more of an urban legend because people's minds are altered by the reality engine and how Gotham should work.
Okay. Well, that might work. Maybe, would you think that Azrael
just
be
kill
a guy?
Azrael.
would you think Azrael be that kind of guy who, just because down the line they would say, that Azrael, he was hung, that he would go for that he's like, that's worth it. That's
even
worth
just
it.
the idea that, when Catwoman finds him, like, when she says to him when she finds him beating up those guys and setting, people on fire alive, I had a feeling he might be out here looking for him, your angel. So it seemed like he might sacrifice himself for what he perceives in this book to be his angel now. So I can go with it.
Maybe Chris Angel, maybe.
No, not the Mind Freak.
I actually wouldn't mind if Ghostmaker showed up. If he was like, bullshit, this is bullshit, and he shot. But the problem is there are certain characters. Azrael almost feels like one of them, that he could really do some damage. And I think that the idea that Ram V wants to put that whole religious aspect in with the Organs, what they're doing, and kind of the black magic and the sort of
demons
history.
In the mind. There's angel over here.
It really works well for Azrael, but I think that Ghostmaker, he'd just come in and wreck
Human
house.
Sacrifice.
He would just come in, fly into the fan, just grab Batman and leave. But that'd be kind of cool. Where's Clown Hunter? Is he involved? But then that's the end of the first story, the front up. The back up is okay. Me and you, especially you're a big fan of Cheshire, of Leanne and Jade, and you get to see a little bit. And they describe, or at least, kind of tell what happened a little of when Jade had
Shoes
to just
in
let
the
her
underground.
go, when Shoes was in the underground. And in fact, the only thing that I kind of laughed at in this, because I thought it was pretty good. This is one of the things you said. It's one of my favorite things that Dan Waters has done, because it's very clear and concise. You get some things, and you get that play between the mother and daughter while Solomon Grundy's sitting there.
And you get real emotion between, from Leanne Harper and confronting her mother about abandoning her and abandoning her father, Roy, and the idea of where she's been this entire time in Gotham, finding her real family since her mother abandoned her.
Yeah, and she says, hey, after you abandoned me, I made it to the murder capital of the world, Gotham, and I did it without you. And then Jade's like, are you crazy?
You going to tell your mom about that stuff where you died?
Yeah, really. And she's like, and this is where it's weird, and I hope that this doesn't end up going, I don't see how it could go against anything in the Green Arrow book or anything, because this is kind of basic stuff of heading in, and it is to get towards the Catwoman stuff that Ram V did. So I like that he's doing this, but when Jade's like, listen, I saw you strutting your stuff down Gotham, like you were naive. You were going down alleys with your crazy outfits, and then you end up where she says, I saw these guys following you. I don't know what they wanted specifically. Unfortunately, I think that most people might figure that out, and it's bad. And so it's really good that she was there, and she says, I destroyed these people. I even like the way that Jade said that at points she dropped off Leanne, and then she had to do a job, ended up going and killing a couple, I guess it was like ambassadors or something, she said. And when she ended up doing that, she realized that they had a kid in the other room. And usually she wouldn't have cared and would actually killed the kid. But she, because of Leanne, said, I changed it up a bit. I just murdered the parents. I let the kids sleep, let that go. And it kind of changed. And I like that. I did like that. And I like that as they're doing this, they do end up getting angry, because you would get angry at some of this. And Solomon Grundy can't take it. He actually reacts as if he's like the little kid and the parents are fighting, which I like. I wish it went a little more with.
Well, mostly things come to a head as he's struggling to drink the tea from the china teacup that Jade gave him. The idea where he's like, trying his hardest, but when Leander says, fuck you, Mom, he just breaks, because at that point in time, he's just a terrified person, like, oh my God, what am I in the middle of right now? And it's a great thing that that Leanne was able to say, fuck you, Mom, because it actually gets, Jade on her side to the point where it's like, fine, look, you've really hurt me with this, and I don't admit, pain very much, but I'm going to help you with your silly spandex, people. So you get, Cheshire
and it gets her on
the team with. Thing is, there's so many, like, I want to say Leanne Harper, I want to say Shoes, I want to say Cheshire Cat. There's just so many names that all come, but I'm like, I think I'm doing too much.
We probably should say Leanne. Just we should make a rule for ourselves that in the podcast we'll just say Leanne. But I even like it where you have Jade, who you do. Dan Waters does a good job through the narration as well of Jade, like, I should hug her, and she shouldn't feel weird in this. It should be her house, but it isn't. And I really like it. I
it's really good emotion. Really good. I liked it a lot.
Like you said, it has the emotion. It really does come to a head with the "F you, Mom," and you end up having Solomon Grundy break that, and that kind of breaks the ice. Not breaks the ice, but it makes him stop and look. And he's still doing his deal, and then they actually get the hug. And I like the idea. Solomon Grundy, like that he has those, chains and stuff too. Looks badass. Where he's like, me not understand ladies, because now they're hugging.
You don't understand
like,
though. It's also attached to his, wallet, so it's not that cool.
No, well, that isn't cool. I hate that so much. I saw a guy with that like 2 months ago. I'm like, really? Like you still going with that look? That's pretty lame, pal. It was my kid.
Or maybe it's strong that he's not letting go.
That's true. So maybe he's like the wallet, like, I don't know, just runs away at points. But he's confused, like, what am they hugging for? Pretty cool. And then they start kicking ass and taking me and killing people.
Cheshire and Cheshire Cat. Mother and daughter working together, a dynamic duo.
I like that backup. I thought it was pretty cool. And while you didn't need it,
it was a great palate cleanser for me that actually made me think, man, that was an okay meal overall.
And what it did also is it still works for the story because you have, Leanne and Jade. So you see how it happened. And Shiva mentions earlier, hey, I got out of the thing. She was in the cages with the people with asthma where they were loading them up and going with that. And Solomon Grundy was able to save them. So it was cool. She even mentions that Solomon Grundy, he ended up, okay, well, get Solomon Grundy. So it all works out. It was actually... It did elevate. For once, one of these backups elevated the story, but what would you go overall?
Overall, I think I like, for the regular story, I'd probably give it a 5.5 to a 6 out of 10 for what was going on there. But I think that the backup actually elevated this book to a 6.5 out of 10 for me.
I'm a little bit ahead. I'm a 7. I'm a 7 overall because, again, if I could get past some of the wonky... Well, then again, it's weird to say get past the wonkiness because there's a lot of wonkiness. But I do like the concept and the big play of gathering that team. I think that it's cool to have, Freeze. That's pretty awesome. Oracle's involved, which is kind of neat. I just like the idea that it's just a crazy play that we'll probably never see a team like this again. But
even the team, when we see them, like you said, we're sitting around and talking. Freeze shows up at the door, and Oracle is just on the phone. Like, we're not doing anything yet with the team.
I'm still going 7. I actually, that backup, I actually think it elevated a lot for me. And I'm like, all right. Like you said, because it's the last thing, I'm like, yep, all right, I can dig that. So a 7, not anything higher than that. But we're going to move on to the next book. Yeah, when we're going to move on to the next book. That is this one worthwhile, Eric? Because I don't get it. I don't
maybe
get
eventually
this book. Well, I think that the problem with this book, and it is Batman and Robin, should be a big book. It feels like they jumped the gun. Maybe there was somewhere where they did need, like, hey, we need a Batman and Robin book. Sales are down. That'll get some sales. Hey, let's do this. But
I agree. I always say we need a Batman and Robin book.
But this one doesn't feel like it has any sort of purpose whatsoever at all. And the story itself is a mess. And the art is even worse. It's Batman and Robin number 3. It's written by Joshua Williamson, art by Simone DeMaio, letters by Steve Wands. And
it's the thing, though, like you said, the idea of the art. We talked about it in the last issue of Batman Robin, where statically things can look okay, but when you're looking for motion panel to panel to what's going on in the scene, you have a good chance of getting lost the way things are laid out and the way things are drawn, especially with the way that the colors blend together. And it's the biggest detriment to this book. I want to say the biggest detriment, but even that's weird to say because the story itself, like, we're not even doing anything yet. Even the idea where it seems this entire issue number 3 of Batman and Robin, is just to let us know that Tommy Elliott, Hush, is not involved. And the thing is, up until Batman said this,
I never thought that right?
He was.
That's the problem.
It's so, with everything that's going on, with the idea of shush, yes, shush sounds like hush, and she looks the way that Tommy Elliott dresses, but with everything going on with animal-human DNA splicing and everything, like the animal crew that she's put together between White Rabbit, the Terrible Trio,
doesn't feel anything like Hush, right?
I don't see any Tommy Elliott in this at all. So when Batman's so concerned about this to the point where he doesn't want to let it go, obviously Tommy Elliott's got to get involved. I'm like, oh, really? You're doing this? Because I never thought that.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, we talk about, and a lot of people talk about the lack of detective work in a Batman story. And they like the detective work. But when you end up reading this, and you actually feel smarter than Batman, because you never thought, like, I'm like, really? Like, yeah, so am I. And I never thought of it. What everybody thought. Now, Joshua Williamson, in his mind, must think that, okay, I'll introduce the shush. It's so funny. Like, shush, which everybody's like, oh, a female hush. But nobody ever said, oh, that's cool. I bet that hush is involved. No, what we thought was, oh, it's another one of these bullshit deals that Joshua Williamson always does. You know, you end up having Peace Wrecker or Dr. Hate or
Red Canary.
Yeah, Red Canary. He keeps doing it. So there's no any sort. And the idea where it almost felt like he was trying to. It's like, it's almost as bad as Rico Tamaki with her nonsense. Mr. Worth. But you end up where, what was the
Anavulsion.
Hugh
Vile.
Yeah. So when Batman, where is he? Where's Tom? What he first Tommy? I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Is he talking about Eric's buddy? He has a buddy named Tommy. Oh, he means Tommy. Oh, he thinks it's Hush. I'm like, what a dummy. Like, where would you get this? In the meantime, you have done what I think, again, becomes the Joshua Williamson signature. Not only just the idea that stories will change mid-arc, things will get like, oh, that's the bad guy, but no, now this is. But what he does is he'll give you wow moments. He'll give you something that in a solicit probably says, it will change things forever. And then you just kind of push it aside. He was attacked by bats. He ended up having that poison in him. This was a play.
Spread all over him to the point where he would not be able to operate as Batman outside at night because he would be swarmed by bats who wanted to attack him the entire time. We need to find an antidote to this. So Batman, you have to lie low and not do Batman stuff. But fuck that, I'm going to do Batman stuff. Well, what about the bats? Well, it doesn't matter because they haven't shown back up.
Yeah, the play of this was, I thought it was going to be a crazy thing in a Batman and Robin book where Batman cannot, it seemed he couldn't go out at night. Now he'll have to rely fully on Damian.
Gotta watch out for them day
bats. Go out at night. Damian will go out at night while also having to go to school in the day, and it'll be this kind of flip-flop deal, and that'll be...
where you wear Damian down. That sounds cool.
Yeah. Instead, the very next issue, pretty much, or the 2 issues, whatever, oh, well, we kind of limited that a little. We did this, and in this it's mentioned, oh, man, I see your little... and it's just pushed aside. We see
I'll give
that
you the
it doesn't
antidote,
matter.
Batman. Well, obviously, Batman doesn't need the antidote. Shush.
But he's a dummy. He's like, well, if you tell me about Tommy Elliott... and she's like, here's the antidote. And he opens up the box, and it has a fucking mirror. Listen, you all along. He ends up where... It's like, I love the idea. Hey, I'll give you the antidote. I want him to say, you see any bats around, bitch? There's nobody. What are you talking about?
And the thing is, if you page through this book, you will see bats going to where Batman and Robin currently are at Blackgate Penitentiary. They're flying towards the place.
They're going to help him eventually, right? They're going to come and help him.
They're not a detriment to Batman at all throughout this entire issue. I don't even think you see one around him throughout this issue. You just see them in the background like, yeah, they're still there. Watch out.
They're in the Batcave where Batman, like I said, just get one of those.
That was years ago.
I want the hermetically sealed, like, suit. And he said, but even that, like, in the art and that, you have some pretty cool art. Like the Damian there where he's sitting there and he's like, hey, I know everything, Pennyworth. But there's also always these panels of somebody grabbing a book. You see Robin's hand with just there's too much of those kind of side panels at the point where you end up and you're right, that is in the past. But when you go to the today, you do see some bats converging. But what you get on that page, and I sat there looking at it, like you end up where you see the outside deal, bats flying, pretty cool. You see some motion involved. But then you see people yelling from a building. Then you're looking through curtains. Then you see a bang of a door. Then you see a cell. There's no reason for it. There's no actual art progression that I can even follow. And it just ends up being a mishmash of a bunch of nonsense. In this issue, you do, again, have some cool things. But
I don't ever want to say that the art is bad, because if you got a page, a panel,
the art is bad at telling the story or helping tell the story. And so when you get this, there are points where you're going to go into the prison. You're going to have Batman's going to have to go find a bomb. You're going to have Damian go off and try to get White Rabbit.
Sometimes you can't get rid of a bomb.
End up having the terrible trio. But I couldn't tell you that when I got done that I could describe the lay of the land and how it progresses. I can't say to you, well, they went in the front door, went down to the and then they went to a cell, and then this, that. It is even just things thrown at you. Right?
Not even the idea of Art not being able to tell the story that it needs to, but like the part you talked about to me the other day, the idea where Shush is locked up in a cell. It talks about the idea, I have a bomb, I've activated the bomb, you have to go stop the bomb, Batman, while Damian is trying to get a hold of White Rabbit, who's running roughshod throughout the prison as the terrible trio are after her. But then, out of nowhere, Shush is just out of the cell and on the run again. Why did we even have that scene? Why was it there?
Why? And you're doing another thing that Simone DeMaio now in a couple issues, it seems to be a thing. We had that play where Damian was there and like, oh man, he's getting bullied. He mentions it again here, but it looked like he beat the crap out of those guys. But then he did. That was a dream sequence of the mind, but it never, because it's in the same page. It does. At this point, I swear, somebody has to have been reading this and like, Batman's so dumb that there's Shush. Listen, I have a bomb somewhere. The bomb looks like it's 2 feet away because she's just talking about the bomb, but there it is. But that's up the butt. It's so weird the way that this whole thing progresses. And then again, you're going to have a little thing of a sniff. Then you're going to have a hand. Then you're going to have this. And I can't wrap my head around what is actually happening. And then when I actually sit back, because this is the weird play. It does make you then try to figure out more than, okay, well, let me really see. And then you realize, shit's happening. They're not really doing anything in this issue. They go to get White Rabbit to question her because Batman thinks Hush is involved. But in the meantime, you end up having Shush wanting to get White Rabbit. At one point, White Rabbit even runs out of the cell, gets away and says, hey, see, you wouldn't want to be ya, and starts running. Well, then you have Shush talking like that later with those crazy little it's just really odd. This whole thing. Then you have the terrible trio. Then you have the DNA splicer. Like, what are we doing
here?
Well,
not even that. I just sit here and I look at White Rabbit because it's such an odd inclusion. Obviously, you don't want a White Rabbit character because you're doing an animal group in this storyline. But I just think about where we've come in 10 years. The idea where 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, in the New 52, when you introduced White Rabbit like this, it was a woman with rabbit ears, like, fake rabbit ears, who walked around in white bra and panties. This one, she's fully covered for the most part. I'm like, yep, that's where you went. You could not get away with New 52 stuff in this.
The New 52 White Rabbit was like 2 seconds away from being featured in a Motley Crue video and then heading to the Playboy Mansion for a while. Actually, she went Playboy. She'd be in Hustler, Eric. It was even that dirtier, but holy moly. But in this, I'm like, what is going on? Are they trying to now they're trying to grab her because they don't want her to spill the beans.
Batman anything, Batman. Yeah.
But originally, you would think maybe they were going to turn her into a real rabbit. We still have the terrible trio that seems to be DNA spliced, all this stuff, and it's just like, what is going on? Batman is so
even
concerned
the idea
about
of the White
Hush.
Rabbit before. The White Rabbit was previously in the New 52. The idea that it was like a split morphing personality of another woman, and she became this white woman who walked around in white lingerie, essentially, and there was a different personality during the, outside of crime time. So right now it's just White Rabbit now and all the time.
Yeah, and just kind of goofy. Well, she runs away, and Damian says, I'm going to go get her. Batman, of course, has to go and find this bomb. So he goes up to find the bomb. Of course, he ends up, I don't even know how or where. You don't even get attention of it because he just suddenly's there with the bomb with 3 seconds left, snips a wire, done.
He had 1 second left when he snipped the wire, Jim. Oh my God, the stakes have never been higher.
You know what I'm saying, though? When he gets there, I think it might be at 5 seconds, but immediately he's just there. In the meantime, White Rabbit and Damian are teaming up, but you don't really get much of the scope of the fight. You take on the terrible trio
until they get taken out. You go out front, and Shush gets a hold of White Rabbit, and then they all drive away. But the thing is, terrible trio, you go that way, we're going to go this way, but they don't realize that Batman has the Batmobile and Damian has the Robinmobile, so they can both follow. And Damian's going to go after the terrible trio, which hopefully leads them to the DNA specialist scientist who was kidnapped previously, while Batman goes after Shush and the White Rabbit.
But I mean, at this point, it looks like it's 3 a.m., right? And Batman's big thing. Okay, I'll follow Shush and White Rabbit. You're going back to school. When do you think school's in session there, Pops? But he's like, no, I'm not going back because it looks like we're not going to get to school now. Because he just says, I was bullied by the jocks and I was with the cold. I'm like, that could have been real fun. That could have been a fun little play. I'm actually right now with Zach, we're doing the Robin Year One, Dick Grayson deal. And a big part of that is him at school. And it's really nice.
Well, that's the thing. We're definitely going to get more school because there's no way that the principal and or his teacher during whatever class that was is not involved or is shush herself. We thought
so, but it's weird for him to say, I'm not going back. I'm bullied, happy. I got the experience. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see.
The principal seemed to know, and even the idea of shush, and then we had the person who was training Damien back before. I think we were just making up
shit because there's not enough of a story, maybe. We had
that woman who was the training Damien before he ever came to Batman, who seemed really, into the idea of keeping Damien there and training him the best possible. She would lay down her life for Damien at that point in time. There's no way going forward that she's not the principal of Gotham High School or she's shush.
Well, we'll talk about it by the end.
Or
because
both.
They're going and they're fighting. They're trying to get it. And you have what, again, it could be in some of the art statically is kind of cool. Batman yelling, hey, White Rabbit, jump. And then she's like, no, you crazy, no, jump. She's going to jump. It's okay. You end up, but even so, I can't get the full progression when you end up where you don't need to show shush at the wheel there close up before this blowing up. I don't really know what happens.
Well, even that point, when you have the Batmobile driving right next to Shush's car, I was going to say the Shushmobile for whatever reason, and White Rabbit jumps from one car to the other, and then Shush immediately runs into something else, and the car explodes, and then when we freaking hit the brakes, turns out Shush got away. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
I don't know what happened. She got away? What are you talking? I saw a kaboom. There you go. It's got away here. So you end up with that. And again, Batman's still hinged. I need to know what happened about Hush. Hush must be the leader.
You're barking up the wrong tree, Batman. I don't know where their master scheme is, but it's not has anything to do with Shush. I mean, Hush. Hush. Hush.
Hush. I love that play in all of this where Batman is so convinced that it's Hush. He usually doesn't jump to conclusions like that, but he's like, it has to be. And then all it takes is White Rabbit to go, really? The idea that Shush, really was concerned that White Rabbit was going to spill the beans. I don't think it was ever anything coming up about Hush. Idea of this, Hush, no. So then we go back to the zoo where Damien is tailing the terrible trio. They go in
and finds Dr. Kafira.
Dr. Kafira's like, They put some chemical inside me, and then I thought Damien's going to be like, oh, shit, the bats are going to try to rape you now. And he's like, I don't feel good.
And maybe it's true, because out of nowhere we have a gigantic man-bat, and Dave's like, look, I don't give a shit about you. I trained against ninja man-bats my entire life. But this one, for whatever reason, seems to be different, where he comes down with gigantic, mutton chop sideburns on a man-bat.
They turned Ra's al Ghul into a man-bat. That's all it has to be.
And such a weird idea to have that, because I still don't want to think it's Ra's al Ghul, but when he says, you really shouldn't underestimate me, my dear child, I don't know. I don't want to say it's Ra's al Ghul, because when I think of Ra's al Ghul, it's not the sides that I think of. It's that pointed little goatee thing he's got going on.
He's got that going on. He's got sides and a goatee. It's there.
We know that Ra's is out and about, and nobody knows about it yet. The idea of him being turned into a man-bat, it feels weird.
Well,
I don't know why he'd go down for that.
But it also, who knows what the hell they're going to play? Well, this was the way I come back, or this is this. But even so.
And was this the man-bat that we saw previously in the first issue?
Well, it does connect, though, to what we hope is the play of that lady who is training Damien. That was part of the Ra's al Ghul deal that maybe...
Well, also, we have somebody who's behind Shush, who's the master behind this whole thing. Was it Ra's al Ghul, or was it Man-Bat?
Or was it, that's what I'm saying, was it this Ra's al Ghul man? I don't know.
I don't remember the person before that we saw the dark shadow of.
We didn't really see much. It was just a dark shadow.
It didn't look like a fucking man-bat.
No, this looks like Ra's al Ghul. He's there, and that might connect into that play of... And remember, what we're talking about is that they showed this lady who was training Damien, but once Damien went off to be with the Batman,
who knows
she didn't have a job anymore. She was done. And we think that maybe this is like the revenge on that. The jabs! So then you have this, Rachel, the craziest thing of it is, I should at the end of this be kind of excited. That's the cliffhanger. And
to me, it's just a fucking man-bat, though. It's something different than a Kirk Langstrom man-bat, something that seems formidable and stuff like that. But never once did I think that Ra's al Ghul, oh my God, yes, I did find it weird that he says, my dear child.
Yeah, and so this guy, if anything, he's a big fan of Ra's. He's all of a sudden he's got the sideburns like that and the goatee. He's got it all going on. Calls Damien, my child. Damien, it would have been nice if Damien would be like, oh my God, what are you doing, grandfather?
But I saw
something
this,
like that.
And I'm just like, oh, it's a formidable man bat. It didn't do anything for me. And even the idea of race, it could be cool, but, this is all in hindsight now where I'm thinking about it like, maybe race stuff, but is it the race that I
This is
really
the issue
want?
I have with this, is the
Doing
idea.
Stuff with shush.
With Batman yelling, oh my God, where's Hush, where's Hush? And then we find out that it's actually, like, how does that connect and how does that work?
Goal. He's always been about splicing his DNA with stuff. Or maybe, all right, look.
Would he want to go hump the leg of Batman now with that pheromones? Do you think that's going to be a problem? He's like trying to make out with Batman? Pretty cool. Pretty sexy.
Let's think about it, though, outside of things.
I'm trying.
This is all hypothetical that this is Ra's al Ghul, okay?
Looks like it.
I'm going to play the game right now. I'm not saying that I'm 100% down with the idea that this is Ra's. Could this be something, even though we're in a post-Gotham War thing where there's one Lazarus pit left right there in the heart of Gotham, not even the heart of Gotham, at the Gotham Observatory up on the mountain. It's still there, though. We don't know what that means or how it affects anything, or if the power's even different because it affected Vandal Savage differently, obviously. But is this a way for Ra's to try to gain some sort of more immortality without the idea of Lazarus?
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, you could, in my mind, it's funny. I'm sitting there thinking desperately of like, have I heard anything about like a bat this way, or that's how long they live, or they do this, or they have this healing? And I'm like, I don't got shit. And basically all I think of is guano and shit and stuff like that. So I'm like, what? The idea of how would this benefit Ra's al Ghul? How would this be the way? Because we haven't seen him. Yeah, and we haven't seen him in a while. We had him in little bits. He had Lazarus Planet deal. And so is this going to be a play? Because you're also talking about animal splicing. Could it be as crazy as, well, the Lazarus rain hit me and I became a fucking man bat?
It's not the craziest thing to happen during that.
Right? That's what I'm saying. We've had crazy things, and now he's here because the only way he thinks that he can reverse this is through a man who does DNA splicing, where we think he's trying to splice to be an animal that he kind of wants to get back to being.
So now we need human DNA to splice.
And he needs human DNA that he's related to. Talia's out of town. Damien's here. Maybe that is, I just need to borrow a little bit of your blood there, grandson. Maybe. And then he finds out, oh, shit, there's the Lazarus pit. And then he jumps into that. Now he's a young man bat, Eric. And he's like, that didn't work. I don't know how it would work.
I'm just thinking about the idea, because now you're almost like, talking about the plot to Fly 2 with Eric Stoltz for the idea for how you get back to being human. But even the idea is like, okay, let's say this is Ra's al Ghul. Again, hypothetically. Yes. I'm not buying it. He needs familiar DNA in order to enact this whole thing to get him back to being human again, because for whatever reason, in our weird story that we're creating right now, the Lazarus Rain resurrected him and made him a man bat. Okay, this is what's going on. But why do we need exact DNA from our family to change back human when we can just take animal DNA and become animal man? Are we related to the animals?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how this could work out.
Is he going to break out in song after this, like King Louie in the jungle? Like, I want to be like you.
He might be.
I want to talk like you, walk like you.
While we're doing this, I'm desperately trying to find
the
solicits for the 2 issues from now, and for some reason I can't find them. I'm trying to find solicits for a later deal where it's like, and Ra's al Ghul, he's the bat. It has to be him. If it's not him, I'm going to be so angry. Not because I think it's a neat idea of the swerve that you're trying, like you are jumping through hoops to try to make us think of something. If it's not him, but I think it is. I think that Damien has been pretty sympathetic, and he's been dead. I mean, the idea that, oh my God, he's back, Grandpa. What can I do for you? He's like, yeah, I need some of your whatever. I need some of the DNAs.
My dear child.
Maybe he'll, and I don't know. Maybe he'll be a man bat forever. I don't know, Eric. I have no idea. I can't figure it out at all. And I'm trying desperately to find a solicit that will at least say that it's not what we say. I don't know. We'll see. But what would you give this at the end?
Ultimately, I'd give this a 5.8 out of 10. Like, the thing is, the art looks fine statically, but telling a story doesn't do it any favors. And the story itself, it's Batman and Robin going, Splitsville in a prison trying to do 2 things, and Batman keeps yelling hush for whatever reason to a cliffhanger that you and I are coming up with the craziest ideas for that didn't mean anything to me where you thought it was Ra's al Ghul. I don't know. I love Batman and Robin. The title is something that I always think that should be happening in DC Comics because the dynamic duo is one of the greatest things that DC Comics has ever done. So you should always have a book in my mind. But this is not hitting the mark for me whatsoever. And even the good stuff that I feel like they did, that the father and son aspect, even getting Damian go to school in issue number 1, and then you saw a bit of the school stuff in issue number 2. You don't get any of that here, and it's just kind of a snooze.
Yeah, it is a snooze, but do you lose? I found
constantly.
That. Batman and Robin number 4, father and son separated. Batman and Robin have been separated. Batman works with White Rabbit to track down the new femme fatale Shush with her, while his son Damian hunts down the criminal mastermind who is targeting his father. But Damian won't like who he finds. Don't miss out on the shocking ending. That's for next issue. I think that sounds more like this. And then you get the next one. Batman and Robin have been separated. Here, get this one. Get the Batman and Robin. Batman works with White Rabbit to track down the new femme fatale Shush while his son. It's the exact. They're not giving the solicit, so something is screwed up. They do that when. But wait a minute.
Something doesn't want to be revealed.
But issue 6, here we go. This is it. Who is Shush? The dynamic duo has proven they can work as Batman and Robin countless times, but now they must work together as Bruce and Damian to stop a deadly killer on a soccer field.
It's a different story.
Now, the mystery is who is Shush and what they are doing in Gotham continues to grow, but Damian is confronted with a blast from his past that wants him to leave his father and Gotham.
His old teacher.
That's probably the teacher, but it could also be Ra's al Ghul Man-Bat. In the cover, it's actually Damian playing soccer being chased by like 80 ninjas. Pretty cool. It looks like Cristiano Ronaldo because I see him taking a dive, Eric. That is a joke. It's a soccer joke. Oh, my goodness. But, well, did you give a score before I ended up finding that?
I did 5.8 out of 10.
Okay, I'm a 6. I'm a 6. I got a kick out of the end talking to you and driving you nuts saying that it's definitely Ra's al Ghul. But we'll see. If it's not Ra's al Ghul, you found somebody, made them grow facial hair in a crazy way to look like it just as a goof, and I don't get it, but maybe Shush has a lot of time on her hands, I guess. She can play games. But again, what are we doing all around? They poisoned the DNA splicer we don't even know that he legitimately turned the terrible trio completely into animals, so it looks like they are, and that would make sense. Like, nothing's going on. I'm down to a 5.5. I can't go 6 for this. There's too many, loose ends that just don't make any sense. So we'll go with that.
We're grasping at straws.
I'd want to like it though, because like you said, a Batman and Robin. But again, I have to reiterate something I said earlier to somebody this week about this book. I think there are worse books this week. I think that Speed Force is infinitely worse than this. But Batman and Robin's an important book. This is way bigger and should be way bigger than a Speed Force or an Outsiders. This is a tentpole deal.
Outsiders.
Oh, that was nonsense. But you're saying that should be bigger with the planetary nun? Maybe.
Multiversal stuff.
Maybe to some people.
I just know that they have a shift ship right now that can traverse the Blade. And the last time I looked at the Blade, we had the new Candlemaker out there and the Batwoman who laughs hanging out. So,
and screw it. By the end of this podcast, we're going to have a whole team of the Vigil in that shit. So I guess
the Outsiders versus Vigil versus Stormwatch.
The fucking place to hang out of nowhere. This is the place to be. The Bleed, Eric. I don't even like saying it. The Bleed. Sounds weird. But what are we doing next, Eric?
Green Lantern number 5, written by Jeremy Adams with art by Zermanico, Ramiro Fajardo Jr., and Dave Sharp. And in this one, we have Hal Jordan trying to stop Sinestro from taking control of all of those Ferris aircraft that he has done to stop people. But exactly, the unmanned ships with all the alien technology that Sinestro planned on them, because they're going to go around and incite fear in the populace. Because Sinestro, with his ring not working, being quarantined on Earth because whatever the United Federation of Planets has been doing right now, he needs his ring powered up so he can get the hell off this rock and get back to doing Sinestro stuff since Hal Jordan's not going to help him. And what you get from this, the idea of trying to induce fear on a planetary scale to, get a charge of his ring, it's kind of a cool idea. And even the idea of Hal Jordan showing you some cool, badass Green Lantern stuff, it essentially is.
Like Maverick, right? He's Maverick.
No, it's not exactly like Maverick, because essentially it's Hal Jordan being Green Lantern and showing you what he can do as what he should be, the greatest Green Lantern who ever lived. Pretty much just pushing his powers to the limit and allowing us to see, hey, that's some pretty cool Green Lantern stuff right there.
Giving a cool speech, right?
But that's about it.
That is it. Would you have been better with the idea that Sinestro plays the long game, becomes a producer of movies and puts out a bunch of horror movies, and gets the fear really going, Eric, like that play. Or maybe even he ends up making a music app with Mumblebee and then controls. I feel
like that would have been like a Scarecrow like story from the 70s or something like that, where he goes Scarecrow's in Hollywood and trying to incite fear through horror. That's what it feels like.
But you say that, and we've had points with, say, a Scarecrow becoming a Yellow Lantern. You always have that wow factor,
it's like
whatever.
The Joker becoming the assistant to the Ayatollah of rock and roll back in the day after he killed Jason Todd.
I don't know that I wouldn't have minded. Now, again, it's not really going to fit this book, but all of a sudden, Sinestro goes off to, have a little meeting, a little sit down with the Scarecrow. Maybe they could work something out, because really all he does is need fear to fuel up.
And he doesn't even know if it's going to work.
And he doesn't. And the play is...
This is desperation.
I love Sinestro the way that he almost at points is more over the top and a little less subtle, but like a Lex Luthor, who he does think that he's doing kind of the right thing. He does, but he really can't think that this is any bit good.
Well, that's the thing. His name's Sinestro.
Yeah, and when he says to Hal, it's like, listen, you should thank me. He's like, no, you're bombing the planet. Like, yeah, I see what you're doing.
You wouldn't help me.
I actually thought there was going to be a play here that he was going to reveal in a way, but there's no way after what happened, is because he ended up their drones. He ended up finagling.
Well, remember in the last issue, it was all those alien bombs that he planted throughout Central City that he needed Barry's help with before, and now it's like, okay, they took care of that,
right?
And now it's time to do my alien tech that I implanted in these aircraft, these jets. I'm going to fly them around with these aliens who are going to pilot them remotely, and I'm going to bomb some shit.
Yeah,
fear,
I'm going to bomb shit. Fear.
And also, I'm going to have a teleprompter here as I go live on the TV to let people know that I, Sinestro, are behind this whole thing, so they really know that to get the fear up.
Fear, baby. Fear. So when all this is going on, like you said, not much actually happens. It's a big pomp and circumstance. You have some shock and awe going on, and you do get to have Hal step up.
He's showing off his powers.
We're 5 issues in, and Jeremy Adams has gone on Twitter and has said, hey, everybody, wait till issue 6. The stuff that happened on Corridor, all that stuff, what happened with Hal and the
stuff that
United Planets, we're going to reveal some of that stuff. And I can only think that this whole series did get the pacing's off, especially because of Night Terrors. You ended up having to stop, and then they were probably told, hey, we had to ease back in. So that
hurt a lot of books.
It did. It hurt the whole line. And that's one of the worst things that has happened in a while, the way they did that, not to reset things to go forward. Instead, it happened right in the middle of a bunch of shit or stuff just starting. So in this, you do have that play where Sinestro says to Hal, like, listen, I came to you for... No, you really didn't. And I think that the story could have been a lot cooler to get that weird team up, because, in fact, Sinestro keeps hinting the United Planets sucks. They are doing bad things that Hal is not going to like. And I think that he could have went that direction a little more, but he didn't take enough time to do it.
I wanted Hal Jordan to talk about the idea of his ring, because even though we have it's the greatest Hal Jordan enemy, Sinestro. Obviously, everybody knows this who has read any Green Lantern or has even watched the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, for Christ's sake. But when you have this, they are also frenemies, because I wanted them to sit down in that diner and actually discuss things, because Hal was sent back here. Exactly. Hal was sent back here to Earth without a ring. He created his own ring. Sinestro's not able to use that ring, much to his chagrin. But even the idea I wanted Hal to talk about, he's stuck here too, because the last time he tried to leave Earth's orbit, his ring turned off. He doesn't know why.
He mentions it a little here.
He does, to himself. But I wanted them to discuss this and just not have Sinestro to go all bomb crazy to get the fears.
That's what I'm saying. And even if it was one of those things where Sinestro says, listen, Hal, just settle down for a second. The United Planets, this, and this, blah, blah, blah. And then Hal says, I don't care
what... You got evil Durlins doing shit back there.
If Hal says, okay, I hear what you're saying, I'm going to deal with that, but not with you because you killed, Kilowog. Or you have the idea of him say that, and then Sinestro says, no, you killed... Something about this, because both of them are... That thing that happened, it seems to involve Kilowog.
Shit went down on Corrigar.
At least hint that, at least hint at that, to the idea of, I will never be anything to you again for what you did to Kilowog. And then you're like, oh shit, like that gets you going. Have something like that. But like you said, you explained it perfectly. I hate to admit it, Eric, but you explained. Sinestro goes bomb crazy. He just suddenly is like, okay, well, that didn't work for that.
Fear.
I didn't try anything and I'm all out of ideas. Bombs. And there you go. It's wacky. At least we didn't. I'm telling you, most of the time, these stories nowadays, he would have been like, ooh, I'm going to affect the social medias. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. But
you're right. Thank goodness we didn't have that.
I almost get the idea where
fear-mongering through fake news.
A lot of people are already, like, he suddenly realizes, you know what? I've been asking for your help. I don't need help. Everybody's running scared here. You guys suck. And
even a social commentary on that, where everybody's running afraid for what's going on in the world right now. Even if you just want to play in the United States, you could have done something here. It's just, hey, here's some, jets flying around bombing things, and Hal takes care of it with his ring.
Again, I think that how you get the filter through it is you can come up with a lot of things that we might think are cool, maybe not everybody, but the editors might be just sitting there and say, okay, but how does Hal use his ring against that? And that's all they're going to end up saying.
And the thing is, like, again, you get some cool
you do get some cool stuff
here.
Yeah.
The idea that he's able to focus his ring through the different spectrum of, like, ultraviolet and stuff like that. Not like not the ultraviolet spectrum that we had during, what was that, metal or whatever thing with the ultraviolet, like,
the ultraviolet, the purple spectrum
the idea,
deal.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're able to go through and find a cloak ship with your ring, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's
and even
cool.
The idea where he has such mastery and control over his ring that he's able to hear through radar coordinates across the globe, where he's able to use his construct to go, like, he's being told by Carol where this is on radar, and he's able to do that mentally and knowing it's cool. It's showing you how great Hal Jordan is with his willpower.
We've had earlier in the series where some people didn't like, right before Night Terrors, when it first started with, oh man, Hal back on Earth, he's kind of a jerk.
I love Green Lanterns on Earth.
And the idea of him, though, kind of like they thought he regressed. Oh, man, he should be more mature than this. I think that the whole play that Jeremy Adams wanted to play, though, is that when he does end up doing any sort of Lantern stuff, that's his thing. I mean, here he is fully in control.
Stuff that he was doing
he's not goofing off. Carol. He's very smart. And
even the stuff he was doing with Carol in, like, the first and second issue was very sus kind of stuff. I felt like we got away from that in the interim with Night Terrors jumping in there, and I'm happy that we have, but it's just
the Night Terrors ruin the idea of the progression. I think that the more mature is that he always does need maybe a Sinestro to go against, an enemy.
Or even a Barry to talk to get his head straight.
So needs to do Green Lantern things. Even if he just is on Earth, he does need to do that because, that's where he's competent. That's where, again, his willpower spikes, Eric. It spikes, as they say. And then that gives him the deal, and he feels like he's useful. And I like that progression. It kind of got shoved in a weird place with that Night Terrors. Even in Night Terrors, though, he was just kicking ass in that, too. So I'd like to see how kicking ass. In this part, I just want to know what the hell is going on with the United Planets. They have this pretty much, wall around Earth. You end up where it's quarantine type of deal where they can't get in and out. Sinestro's pissed that he's stuck there, which that's kind of a cool concept, but you haven't been able to develop it because we don't really know what's going on with the United Planets. Once we find out, it might even be cooler because in this, Sinestro just feels like if I have my ring charge, I can just bust the shit out of here and get out, but it feels like more than that. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. But overall,
even bringing up the idea of Night Terrors. Night Terrors did a fantastic job showing you how cool Hal Jordan Green Lantern is throughout that 2-issue run of that whole thing for the Green Lantern, like, tie-ins. That was amazing, especially in the second issue. Like, that was maybe my book of the week when that came out because of how cool
it was. My favorite Night Terrors issue. That it was the actual cool. Night Terror was petrified of Hal when he's like, I'm going to get you. And like you had to point out, he was using crazy constructs of, horror movie stuff. Chainsaws and things like that. Really cool.
Oh, he Evil Deaded the hell out of it.
Yeah, he did. And it was such a cool play to show that.
You have the issue showing you in the real life, the daytime, and like you're showing how great Hal Jordan is through his ring slinging, what his ring can do, and even going on TV, trying to inspire people to be all courageous and not give in to fear because this is what Sinestro wants. And I'm like, it feels actually less than what happened in a dream, and that feels weird to me.
The thing I think that here's the issue, and again, I'll tie in Nightwing and Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor's Nightwing, if you just look at it surface level, hey, the hero always wins. It's always pointed out that he's great. He's always inspiring people, but you get to a point where you sit there and say, I know this. I don't need it. So in this, I think that's the same deal. When you're in the Night Terrors, you're in like an unknown thing there. The landscape there is so weird. We saw everything else go, and all of a sudden Hal steps up and you're like, holy shit, it's a reminder of, when Hal does this thing, he does this thing. But in the regular book here, this feels like if it had Tom Taylor on the cover, people would say, oh, we already know this about Hal. Oh my God. And in the play, I want to know more about this new ring. I want to know what he knows it can do, can't do, test it out. And in this, you do see the spectrums that he's looking for, the drones, but not much more than that in that play of, I thought we were going to get a little more different things, but it's fine. And he ends up where he concentrates and he's going to have two constructs go opposite ends of the earth. Some people
one to Washington D.C., one to Moscow.
Yeah, and I saw some people like, yeah, that's a little bit too much. But again, you want to elevate your hero. But
exactly.
Here's the thing: why I don't get so mad about this, as opposed to say a Tom Taylor deal with Nightwing. This series just started, and I have more faith in Jeremy Adams that he has more of a story in mind. But I hope that it doesn't become just a book where he did see some flack of, oh man, look at Hal, he's immature and he's this, and now it's just he's set in this mode of, I want to do, because, I mean, you'll know how many times I've said it this week already. How many times do I say a book needs to show you how cool the main character is, and this does it.
That's why I'm buying the book.
We already know. If it's something where a Blue Beetle, where I would say, well, a lot of people may not know that, so push that, but still good. It's just, I want more. I expect more from Jeremy Adams. And I'm not a huge Hal Jordan Green Lantern. I know all this, but it's cool to see it. It's cool to see. I just think that the main play is you have all these mysteries about what happened on Corridor. What's the United Planets doing? And you want to get to that. And he promised next issue. So,
well, again, the idea of that, what happened on Corridor, what happened to Kilowog, what's going on with the United Federation of Planets, all cool mysteries that I want to get to the bottom of, especially when Hal does confront Sinestro at the end of this issue. And Sinestro says, I came here for help, you imbecile. Something is wrong with the emotional spectrum. You must have felt it by now. After our encounter, his power was gone. This is very intriguing as well. I want to know more about that. But every bit of intrigue is then taken away from me when the idea that the rage that Sinestro is feeling for Hal Jordan, for what has just happened to him, the idea that he's stuck here and how disappointing him by stopping him from doing what he's doing. His yellow ring then allows him to become a red lantern because he feels the rage.
And why does this happen? Because he said the emotional spectrum is wacky,
exactly.
So it allows that. It's again, we're talking Speed Force magic.
That's why I brought it up when he said it before. And I'm like, you just kind of ruined it because now, because he's feeling the rage and has powers of a red lantern. I'm like, was his heart just replaced by the red, like lava that's inside of a red lantern?
He can't fly into the sun like Supergirl, right? Where's the blood pool?
It's just a lot of weird things going on for me to really understand, especially with not having any Blue Lanterns out and about.
I actually, and just as an aside, I actually was hoping, I know it'd be something that you wouldn't like, but not that Hal was becoming a White Lantern, but that ring was a little bit different and could tap into different emotional spectrums. I thought might be cool for a little, but...
Well, that is cool. It was really cool, though, when Kyle Rayner did that in the New Guardians. It was amazing.
I actually, when I saw this at the end, when I first saw it, I'm like, ooh, what if they tie this into the rage seed that was planted? That maybe you would let, but no, it's emotional spectrum's wacky.
It's stupid. I hate, that the Green Lanterns run for all it did because it got so many things wrong.
Humphreys
and it just
deal.
Sam Humphreys Green Lanterns with Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. Loved it. Those characters
lantern that they never used there.
Exactly. But that rage seed was just forgotten completely, never brought up again. I would shit if somebody brought up the rage seed out of nowhere.
At first when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God. Oh yeah, he said it's wacky. Like all of a sudden he's desperately looking for power. And the rage seed was there. Would have been so cool, right?
With Jeffrey Thorne's Green Lantern series, where the Godstorm recreated the emotional spectrum, or not the emotional spectrum, but like the main power battery that we had on Oa. Did it recreate that? Because at that point, a lot of people, because of the Godstorm that John Stewart had and Reignited stuff, became these different lanterns. And like, is that a part of it?
It's funny because I would love to say no, but a lot of the other stuff, like the United Planet, like that's a lot of going into that too.
And also what's going on with John Stewart right now in War Journal.
So there is some crazy stuff that now again, I know that you, continuity kid, you like to tie all these things together. Now the rage seed would be completely crazy and you would be so happy.
Well, nobody remembers the rage seed.
The idea of going into Jeffrey Thorne stuff, I think, is still wacky because nobody liked that, but it works. That's what happened, and they maintain that deal. So
was that 7 years ago that Rage Seed happened?
Oh, that Rage Seed was 2016, and it was right at the beginning. Yeah, the Rage Seed stuff was
even the idea
ridiculous.
In that where all of a sudden Simon Baz had the Emerald Sight, and he foresaw this Power Ring core coming to this universe. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Never heard from it again. His visions suck.
I made a joke earlier about the willpower spiking, and that was just to dig into you.
God,
we didn't even say anything about it, but that's what that was from.
Sucked.
Also, I was ending up talking to some people this week, and I ended up, I think it was Yaya, that we were talking about the idea of that Batman and the Outsiders, and the idea, I completely forgot that Duke Thomas got not the light, remember he got the dark powers
from Ishmael.
I was like, what? He said that.
He changed him.
Oh, crap. That did happen. What's up with that? There's so many things that get left behind. Some cool, some you realize why they are left behind, but some like that rage suit just was a thing that just was completely just pushed aside.
Well, even the idea where it's like Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz versus the Red Lanterns with Atrocitus and Bleeze and all these other characters that died in the previous Red Lanterns book, and Bleeze, who would never want anything to do with Atrocitus again after the end of the Red Lanterns book. But then it's like, oh no, here's all your favorite Red Lanterns. Like, well, that's bullshit. And then they left a rage seed behind to grow, and it never
believe that
back.
Charles Soule, Red Lanterns, that book, nobody talks about that anymore. That was a good book. Now,
Guy Gardner becoming a Red Lantern was great.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. And then he was nude, Eric, nude, I say. But at the end there, I do like where you do kind of explain why Sinestro got all bomb crazy, because the little girl wasn't afraid of him. I can relate to that. If I was Sinestro and how much of an asshole I am, if I ended up and this little girl's like laughing at me and pointing, I'd be like, fuck this, I'm done. And he got so riled up. And I thought that was kind of a funny little play to show you what little, something that little could end up making sense, because that was it. He's like, I'm done. I can't take this anymore, and starts bombing shit. But it didn't work. But now he's got.
But the emotional spectrum's wonky, and now he has the rage for some reason. Another thing I was thinking about after I read this issue earlier in the week that nobody's ever brought up again, because I think it was during. No,
something we haven't brought up a lot is how much I love you, Eric. I just wanted to say.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Maybe I'll say it back one day.
No, never.
But when you have this, when Kyle Rayner was the White Lantern and then replenished the emotional spectrum reservoir with all the different entities of the different spectrums, stuff like that. That was beyond the source wall, which was then destroyed after Perpetua was released. So do we still have a reservoir out there? And what's up with the different entities?
I just remember all those White Lantern rings flying off to find hosts.
Well, the thing is, we split the White Lantern ring into a bunch of different things because that had the secret code to unlock the life equation, which was too much for one person. So we're going to make the White Lantern core out there that never came back either. Because then Kyle Rayner, as the White Lantern, went back to Ella, and they're like, hey, you got that special dare ring. How about you use your power to try to recreate the Blue Lantern Corps? Because we could really use some of them guys. Okay.
We need the Blue Lanterns back.
And my White Lantern ring broke. So, okay, well, here's a Green Lantern. You're back to basics, Kyle.
So that big, that big elephant guy? He was in that as well, right?
Dead.
Wasn't he one of them? I know, but bring them all back. I love them. But yeah, we need the whole spectrum again, and we need to have things going on.
What's Fleece up to?
He's probably grabbing shit and saying mine. I mean, that's really what he does. Very good. Even then,
spot on.
There's so many nine. He ended up where a lot of things wouldn't make sense.
Can't argue.
But out of nowhere, hey, I'm here to save you, and Hal turns around, it's White Lantern Kyle. I don't even need an explanation. I'd be like, that is awesome. But I don't know. I don't know what happened in Corridor. I'm very interested in that. But this issue, like you said, it's cool. It makes Hal a badass.
It's okay.
It plays off. I'm saying it's cool in that sense, but there's not really much story. It feels like a filler issue before you get to all the big things. You have to set up this crazy deal to get to these big things. And so I'm waiting for that. But you do have a backup.
Our Sinister Sons prologue here, written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by David LaFuente, Tamara Bonvillain, and Rob Lee. We continue the journey of young Korg, who is pretty much being taken in by a swindler who's going to feed the kids as long as they steal good stuff from them, like we saw in the previous issue. And what you get out of this little installment is more of what you had in the previous issue. When I say more, not like more story, pretty much the exact same thing in a different circumstance.
This is just, I think, to get the feel of, okay, this is kind of cool. I don't really like the character of Korg. I think, first off,
I don't mind Korg yet.
I think he's ridiculously stupid. When they're like, hey, they have to set up, why I called you Korg? Hey, you know why I called you? Like, I have no idea. It's because of Korg, you stupid idiot. So then you go, but there's nothing really to this. I still think that overall,
he fights with the person gives them food like he did in the previous issue, and that's about it.
It's okay. I can't say that I'm looking forward to the Sinister Sons book.
I would understand the Sinister Sons book, because in my mind, if you're doing a Sinister Sons book, it should be, a counter to the Super Sons story that we have going on back in the day, because you would want to have, the Super Sons versus the Sinister Sons.
I actually had to, tell you. Well, actually, exactly. Eric, in the deal, because you would think
you're going to have Korg team up with Lord Zod, the son of General Zod, and it's going to be a weird situation, because where I thought the idea, okay, you're going to have Lord Zod, who looks like he's been DH for the Sinister Sons book, go up against the Super Sons, because you're going to want to have, John Kent as a kid teamed up with Robin, the Super Sons, who people love. So you have this, and it also makes sense that way because Lord Zod died in the last Suicide Squad book we had. So it doesn't make sense for Lord Zod to be here
I got you so back in the day. Well, we could. Now, the thing is, I'm one of the people, I'll argue, everybody in the Slack knows this, that I will argue about the Super Sons book, that I thought that the characters were great, fell in love with them, but the stories, me and you, we reviewed each issue. You had, what's it called? Now I can't even, Kid Amazo, was what he started. Then he came back. He was so bad that that was nonsense. Then when you even continue, you ended up having Lex Luthor and the, crazy version of the...
I was going to say his Legion, but what do you call it, though?
I guess it was like
the Legion of Boom? I forget.
No, that's the defense for Seattle. You end up where all that, though, is these characters at Korg, he feels like he's just right out of that. I mean, it really feels, because I think we did even have a young Sinestro that they had. So it ends up feeling like, I don't think, like, the idea of getting Peter J. Tomasi doing something cool, right? But this isn't like, and what I remember what I wanted to get to. I fell in love with the characters of Damian and John because they're Damian and John. I already love Damian and John. I don't know that I care about Korg, right? Like the idea that Korg doesn't equal out in my love of Damian or John, and I don't think ever will. And I think it's just going to be a mini that maybe some people have fun with that were fans of Super Sons. But the big thing, it's not Super Sons. So I think that
Sinister
you're watering it down to try to get you're trying to get lightning on bottle again. I don't think you'll get it.
The worst part for me is you're bringing back Lord Zod, which I was hinging a story that I was personally writing, which has no thing that deal with anything that we're ever going to deal with, because I'll be able to write a story for DC Comics, but a big event story, the Phantom War, where General Zod would be pissed about the death of his son on planet Earth with all those hairless apes who aren't Kryptonians, and he would start this gigantic war. It really hinged on Lord Zod being dead. And if he's back here, no explanation, you're ruining it for me personally.
I don't necessarily think that Korg is Sinestro's son. I think that's kind of the place. So maybe we'll get a weird Lord Zod that it's not really. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play it. We'll have to see when it comes out. But it feels like a book that's kind of unnecessary before it even comes out. These backups don't get me that excited for it. What would you give this?
Ultimately, I think the art is fine in the Green Lantern book overall. It's just, with how it's going around doing ring slinger stuff with nothing that really feels like it has any real stakes for what he's doing with it. You're showing off some powers, but the stuff that you get to see, it's just exaggerated things that you expect him to see. Yeah, it's cool to a degree, but it doesn't feel like it should play out for an entire issue. And by the end, when Sinestro, just because the emotional spectrum is wonky, just becomes a Red Lantern, it seems like, because of this rage, it just leaves me wanting more. And the backup is just, like I said, more of the same what we had last issue, which isn't bad. It's just the same thing we had last issue. So 5 out of 10, just a straight 5.
I think I'm a 6. And when I go through it, when I start thinking about Sinestro, is he going to be able to then shift it? Are they going to do a lot with the rage, or is it going to be one of those, well, I had the rage, which powered up my ring, but now it went wonky back to the yellow. Boom, I'm out of here.
Even the idea of nobody's charging a ring. He's trying to charge it through convoluted means by getting people on the planet Earth scared to do that. But no, I can just charge up because of my rage, obviously, even though it's not a Red Lantern ring. I need to know what the emotional spectrum being wonky actually means.
He's got to get to a blood pool, bitch. He's got to start doing some crazy shit.
He's not crazy. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Blood pool. He's there. That'd be hilarious. Next issue, he's just bathing in a jacuzzi of blood. They used to have a lot of parties around that blood pool when they'd go back there.
That's the main feature of the place.
Guys, they had good times there. I remember Bleeze getting just shade thrown at her, so much at that blood pool. She didn't like it. It was a bad place for her. But all in all, I'm going to go 6. I like the art a lot. And and I've been bitching at books that aren't giving you, hey, look at my character, badass. But that's what you brought it up. That's what I actually said was so cool about the Night Terrors issue, where Oh, man, showing how cool he is. Now, let's go. We got to get moving on. Hopefully what Jeremy Adams promises us next issue, that's where it's at. So we'll get to that. But that's that for the first section of books. We're going to move on for a little break, and then we'll be back with 3 other books that will wow and amaze everyone, including Eric Shea, I hope. But we'll be back with that in just a moment. And we are back, Eric. We have 3 books, as I said just a moment ago.
I like that song.
It brings up some bad memories, doesn't it? At the end.
Just you call me an asshole.
Well, no, I said that, DC thinks we're assholes. I'm happy with you. You're vain, Eric.
Must be Rayshoko Reborn.
It's Rayshoko Reborn, Eric. I can't believe it. But yeah, you're not an asshole. I said that you are kind of, but I said that I'm glad that you're back. There you
go. What about Thalamus Engine Reborn?
Oh, I couldn't remember what it was. We'll get to that a little bit later. This is when we ended up, as we were starting up the deal, and I was like muttering to myself about getting things. I actually forgot that I even said anything. So I got Ra's al Ghul. Thalamus Engine. What did you just say, Eric? I mean, what you really wanted me to say with Wrong Turn is must be Thalamus Engine Reborn. Is that what you're saying, Eric? Is that what you're telling me? That's what you're saying. Like if I actually
man, that's what I'm saying. Damn.
That going right now, you would be happy about it. Just give me a second, Eric. But we're here to talk 3 books. We don't have to worry about Wrong Turn and any sort of Thalamus Engine Reborn is what you said. But with all of that, here we are. I hope that everybody's enjoying their time spent with us now.
I was.
And oh my, really? Were you really enjoying it, or were you more even mad that I ended up calling you an asshole, Eric? Was that really something that you got mad about? Was it?
No,
was it really?
I got over it.
Oh, you did.
Must be Thalamus Engine Reborn.
Eric, we did it. We did it. See, that is like right in, state of the art. But here we go, and we're going to start with people like, why are they doing this?
I wouldn't know why we're doing this, honestly.
Most people, actually, you brought up the Thalamus Engine. I forgot about it, but most people don't even remember Wrong Turn. R.I.P. Eric, from the grave, the voice of an angel. The voice of an angel.
Piece of Dracula.
We're going to start with the Vigil. The Vigil number 6. Eric, do you realize this is the finale?
I do.
Of the Vigil. Did it feel like a finale, or did it feel like we led to this finale? Did you feel like by the end, it was telling the same story that we started with? Ram V, you can't tie that guy down. He's a wild horse that cannot be tamed. Eric, I like to call him Wildfire, is what I call him, Ram V, because you cannot tame the guy. He'll do what he does, and he'll just Wildfire. Ram V being Ram V. Here we go. The Vigil number 6, written by Wildfire, Ram V. Art by Devmala Pramanik, Norm Rapmund, Rain Barreto, and Dave Sharp. And what we get in this issue is what I like to call
the Vigil disbanded.
A 2-minute drill at the end of the game where you realize, oh shit, we've been sitting on our hands this whole time, but we could still possibly win the game. And that's what he tries to do. I don't know that he does it, but at least in that, you might live to see another day at the end through the bleed. But in this whole play, we started out, and I just want to start this whole thing out by giving people, and you, Eric, the series announcement for the Vigil and what they said this was about. The Vigil is Arclight, Seiya, Dodge, and Castle, a group of individuals given powers they didn't want. Determined, though, to stop metahuman research and tech created for military applications at any cost. Along the way, they'll encounter superheroes that could be allies or enemies. Not a surprise for a group that exists to shut down state-sponsored superhumans and clean up the mess before any hero or villain arrives.
El Nino.
As if both the crime and the Vigil were never there. Well, what I get at the end of this is I don't know if they were there for any of that, and I don't know why I was here. We liked the book at the beginning. It seemed intriguing. The characters were kind of cool, but it was going nowhere. Slow, as we say. Then you get to, say, last issue, and you realize, wait a minute, we never really did introduce the villain, Hep. Everything was in that weird... everything. The name changed at one point. Yeah, me and you talked about it, where it was Festus, then it went to Feistus, whatever. But
he was locked inside of a Cthulhu world for a while until he broke out, but Dr. Sankaran could also go there and astral project himself. But along their research, they realized they could also use their power to create people like the Vigil, because that's what Dr. Sankaran did. And once the Vigil discovered they were all figments of Dr. Sankaran's imagination to be the people that he needed them to be, to do the things that he needed them to do, they're like, we ain't doing this shit no more, you goddamn maniac. We ain't your puppets. But the thing is, one of the people that Dr. Sankaran created was Castle, one of the smartest people there is, who is a brilliant tactician, who was the brains behind the team. He realized through all these different things with Dr. Feistus Hep coming for all of them, that he could round them back up and save the day and stop that.
He actually realized that Festus or Feistus Hep was the one who created Castle. That was the one that Dr. Sankaran didn't actually create. That was the big play, that he was created actually by Festus or Feistus. I'm going to get cut. So that was the play of, you didn't create me, Hep did. I'm glad they went with Hep for a while. Even that, though, he's a Hep cat, he is. But you end up where, remember at the beginning of the series, they were kind of checking things out. They were going, and you thought this was a cool play against, say, Stormwatch. With the whole that, maybe even
they
Doom
were
Patrol,
taking things out of people's hands who don't need this technology because it's dangerous, while Stormwatch was going against people with technology and taking that technology for themselves.
You know, Stormwatch, that's the one thing that was kind of in the Brave and the Bold. But the idea of the Doom Patrol, because this was something that people would say was, hey, it's the Indian Doom Patrol, and it kind of works. But when you end up the Doom Patrol, they were going after the Lazarus Ray. That kind of got pushed aside. Like, why are we getting a lot of these stories where even with a set amount of issues, you don't even know that they realized what story they were telling by the end? It's very odd. And
Ram V realized he could get away with it with Swamp Thing, so he's going to do nothing else.
He has been in that mode, and now he's exclusive. Maybe he did think, well, I can continue this. Now, by the end, he has even gone on Twitter and said that they will continue. The problem I have is whether or not that's the case, because I don't see any sort of stats that tell me that this is selling. But by the end of the 6 issues, we're back to that play that I say, and I mentioned it during the Green Lantern in the last section, but the play of, all right, what do you do? I guess you kind of show me the team's kind of cool, but not in a way that is good, because by the end, I don't even know what's going on. Nobody is going to sit there 6 months from now and say, man, I can't wait to see Arclight again. I barely could remember the characters as we're going. I love Arclight, but I always have to remind myself every issue, okay, that's Arclight, that's Kinsel, that's Dodge. Finally, I am kind of getting the names down, but I'm not going to tell you that they're really that exciting. You have
Nia Saha, who's kind of the handler of the group, but you also have you have Seiya, who's like the not the metamorpho, but like the shapeshifter of it. And it's like, and also in this, you have Seiya and Saha working together to overcome Hep's freaking stormtroopers. So you have them both in the same room. Like, stop doing that, please.
Seiya, Saha, Sankaran. I mean, is this something that is, hey, Arzen Asmer? I mean, this guy likes to throw these names out there. He likes that, but you got to have at a point where you realize Seiya and Saha are too easy sounding. Right?
Did you remember anything about Dynamo who showed up this issue? Because this seems like a new character to me that I don't recall ever seeing before.
I did remember Dynamo only because I made a big deal. It was the issue that you weren't around with, because that's the guy that they went and grabbed. And I thought he was dead. I thought they killed him. And then they end up kind of going around with him. So, I need that now. You end up where all of that going on, though, is I thought he was dead, but he doesn't really do anything here anyway.
Fine. He's
and that's
dead.
The problem.
He's dead here.
I mean, I thought he was already, but then he is here.
He's a powerhouse who takes out some Jeeps and stuff like that and gets killed. Dynamo, we hardly knew ye.
We had 6 issues. You meandered about. You end up having like, hey, I want to show you the background of this character. I want to do this with that. One of the things, though, that we had right at the beginning, and we didn't know what the hell was going on. Oh, my God, look at that sniper with that black shit coming out of his eyes. What's going on with that? Suddenly, he becomes big in the end. We barely knew him, Mr. Wall. He becomes the big thing here.
I don't even understand what Mr. Wall is. He is a creation like the rest of them who has a meta power thing that he has a gun that he shoots black through that erases you, disappears you, makes you pretty much disintegrate in front of like everybody. But it didn't seem like we had that previously, I thought. Well, that's the thing is, did he have this power when he attacked Saha's, protege who she replaced? Because I thought he was there dead on the shitter.
Well, he was in the shitter, but it was also that he was shooting somebody from across the building at one point.
But anyway,
again,
he has this human power, Mr. Wall. Is the gun something else, or does he manifest this gun to use his power? Is it a part of his power, or is it something he needs to use his power?
Like it's like Mr. a Wall. Conduit that gets to it, and
like a Green Lantern ring. Something. Is that what it is?
I don't know. What this ends up doing, though, is to me, you end up with almost like that play of, oh my God, like almost like an Ocean's 11 in a way where, oh my God, this happened. Now you get the music going, and you're going to end up explaining, well, you thought you were doing this, but when it's done, cool. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Half these things are like, well, this guy did this, and that. We don't know these people enough to do it. We don't know their power sets or know the people enough to actually get behind it in my mind. I had no idea.
His assassin, Mr. Wall, and their stormtroopers coming after the individual members of the Vigil who have now disbanded because they don't want to think that they're a part of somebody's imagination, essentially. They're
Which we just found out.
Exactly. But now they're being targeted. But Castle has set things up in motion, and he also thinks that, he knows a way to get the team back together again by them overcoming these forces that are coming against them. And he has this whole thing planned out as a tactician. Castle's a cool little character because he's explaining to us everything's going on. And that when we see the characters who are able to overcome and come back together because they need to out of sheer survival, it is cool because Castle's like, I know you'd come back. Shut the hell up, Castle. That's a little fun little nod there where it's all unravels together to show you why these things are happening and how our characters are able to overcome. The problem I have, though,
from everything that we read to this, you get to a point where what he's saying hinges so much on us knowing the characters more than just the idea that we just found out that they were made up or this and that and their powers and all that, where he's going like, you're supposed to get that play of, oh man, of course Arclight did that. Oh yeah, of course.
See, the thing with Arclight, I get it with Arclight because of the electrical powers and how he takes his powers from things, even though he should be depowered, but there's a third rail situation to power up from a subway train. I get that works. The idea, it's very subtle. I wish it was a little bit more detailed. The idea that the shapeshifter we have, Seiya, they were able to go around as Nia Saha for an entire day, see the life that she lives and stuff like that.
Because they were checking up on her.
To make sure that she's trustworthy and that she should be a part of the team. This was a good little thing that we had previously to the point where because of what Seiya has, seen through the life of Saha, he's making sure that she's okay and shows up there to work. It's very subtle. I think it works pretty well, though. I just wish it would have been explored a little bit more.
I'll just let you know the couple things, like you said, with Arclight. You end up where I gave him the picture of his kid. Again, we kind of knew stuff about that, but I never had a connection that I said, oh my God, he definitely would do that because of that picture. Then you go with the idea, because he works through electricity, he would know that the electric train wouldn't be late. And you're already starting to go too far because I don't really know these characters as well as you might think I do. It makes sense. The electric guy, he knows the electric train. All right. Well, with the Seiya stuff and Saha, it just made me laugh because it almost hinges on the idea, well, you don't get this. Seiya was already pretending because looks like there as Seiya is there as Saha as well.
There's a decoy, yeah.
But you don't. There's no need for a decoy. They come in and see. It could be anybody that's in that closet that comes out and shoots. You don't have to end up looking like Seiya. He's just there in the shadows and kills these people, and it didn't play out as well for me. I get the idea that he cares about her because he followed her, but even then, you were doing that in an underhanded way to see if she was on the up and up. Never really enough. There wasn't enough real estate here for me to say that they were really good friends.
I wish there was more, but I like the way that it played out. But I think it could have played out better if we got more.
I could have jumped out and shot them just the same as somebody that looks like it's just kind of there to say.
But this gives Seiya a purpose to be there because of the connection that he felt with
the connection's there as well, but it doesn't have to really look like her. I'm saying you're trying to push the powers as some sort of deal. It wasn't really a decoy. Jumped out of the shadows and shot him. Fine. You end up even having a Kill Bill look at the end where they're looking down. But then you get the Arclight, who I think is the coolest. But then you're really starting to...
Arclight is the coolest.
You're retroactively, though, and not even it feels like retroactively of, okay, now I'm going to explain all these things after having 5 issues of not really any story whatsoever, especially story that was at one point, we're going to get Tech, We didn't know who Hep was. He was kind of there at one point. We saw that at one point Dr. Sankaran would go nude and go into the dimension. That had to be explained later. The pacing of this whole series was off, and you never really got a footing because you kept being told out of nowhere, hey, by the way, this is what it is. Boom, we get to the next issue. Oh, this is what. Never really a progression that I thought was natural.
Well, even the idea, but by the end, because we do have Dodge who's still at the facility, but the idea that we learned recently that Dodge, who is a pseudo speedster, she has the ability to vibrate, but also it's not exactly speed because she does have the ability to be two places at once for how she shifts. But then you essentially kind of make her into a shift ship by the end of this for them to like disappear into the bleed by using the vibrations of Dodge's power.
This is a weird series. And so here, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And it's not anything crazy, but by the end of this, when you get done the last page, do you think that you kind of have a little bit of a grip on the character? Because I do, right? I do. But do you think in these 6 issues we got a story with these? I don't feel that way.
No, there were little vignettes here and there to like, hey, your figments of imagination, and now all shit's here for the final issue, shift ship.
And it's like what people complain about with events. Oh, it didn't have a beginning, middle, end. You were just setting up the next thing. An event's something to. This is a book that
and we've had this a lot lately.
Yeah, and it's weird, but in a miniseries, it's so weird to have it like by the end, it felt like all he wanted to do was say, "Hey, this character does that."
Same thing happened with Doom Patrol.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up before. Doom Patrol did, but yet I will tell you. I have more of a grip on these characters than I did the Doom Patrol, even the ones that were well established. Yeah, those things. I mean, remember, at the end of that, it was basically, hey, we're going to go and get arrested. And if you need us, at least these characters are together. They go, you end up having that play where, oh man, Castle, look at that little guy. He's pretty smart. All right. We end up Arclight. Okay, electrical powers. I got it. You get Saya can end up, shape-shifting different. I know the characters.
A technological mask?
I give them credit for all of that stuff. And now we find out of nowhere, Dodge, Dinah, she can kind of ship it that can put him in the bleed. Okay, that sets him up to maybe get involved with, say, a Stormwatch or a Planetary or outside. That's fine.
Outsiders,
yeah. By the end, when I sit there, I'm like, but I spent 6 issues trying to figure out a story. It is. And so in all of this, I'm
again, in the Outsiders, in this, and in the Unstoppable Doom Patrol.
And Doom Patrol, yeah. So when you have this deal, I just feel like somehow that I've been duped, that there was never a story.
No, I get you.
And then but you were only here to learn about characters that will be in something else. And so by the end, that really pisses me off at points. I
just
really
like
think
how they
was
showed up in
duped.
Detective Comics.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Until I read this issue, and this was where Ram V a couple weeks ago was saying, oh, they're going to show up. I made a joke. I think I said it to you. They're just going to show up in Detective Comics in a panel, or they're going to end up in this in a side deal. But no, I think that they may continue. And when they do, I may actually appreciate this series just for the fact that I do know the character. I do like them enough.
Whatever's coming up, again, we talked about this, I think, on the Spotlight. I'm not sure if that's the case or it was even last week. But whatever's coming, the end of the dawn of DC, whatever big evil, it seems like a Brainiac thing, but there's something else going on.
A Brainiac and a multiversal Amanda Waller, it seems like
that seems like the whole big thing. But somewhere in there, you have the Batwoman who laughs and the new Candlemaker stuck in the bleed. You now have, that happened in Unstoppable Doom Patrol. And then you have the Outsiders with their carrier, their shift ship that's going to explore the bleed in the multiverse. It's a good way to get those characters out there and maybe start a new big bad army, whatever you're going to do. And now you have the Vigil. So if you have that storyline going down, whether it's a mini event, a big event, I don't know, but you can at least have them show up for at least a tie-in where they're involved because they have the means to do whatever they need to do with the bleed or get those villains out.
Like, say it's like Brainiac attacks the bleed. That'll be that side deal where they're going and trying to get these nonsense things and stuff. But, and really, if it's the Unstoppable Doom Patrol by Dennis Culver, what little, I can't really judge a lot of the Lansing and Kelly Outsiders.
Yeah.
With I like the Vigil team more. I actually am interested because they're all new characters. I think that they're pretty cool. They're unique. And so I'm there. But
because again, what I don't understand their lives because they are just creations of Dr. Sankara, and what does that mean ultimately, and how long have they actually been there? He made them real, but like, were they born and they lived their entire lives, or were they just like created as adults and they just had their memories implanted with the powers they needed to do whatever Dr. Sankara needed to fight?
I think that the answer is yes, Eric. So at the end of this, though, this is where I think that going forward, because my score is not going to be great for this last issue, because it really does seem like a kick in the balls that we were just led, where you could have had.
Oh, it's very disappointing.
You could have had like a 3-page dossier, and I probably would have known just as much about it. But we got some personal little deal. But there are things that mean you bring up. We brought up the rage seed earlier, but things like the rookie. Not everybody loved him. We didn't love when we ended up Jim Gordon when he was Batman. Didn't love it when it was happening. But as time goes on, we actually appreciate that we read the story because it keeps coming up. So when I see.
Well, the rookie was the most fun that happened out of that because, Super Heavy kind of sucked.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So when we go through this and the Vigil come up again, I'm not going to say, those assholes, like I was so mad how that thing ended. I'm actually going to be kind of cool with it when we get to it. But for an actual series here, as a mini-series, Ram V, he's Wildfire. He can't be tamed, Eric. And you give the guy 6 issues, he doesn't give a shit. Now, in that, you kind of get a play where you can imagine, and we like to imagine the bullpen. We like to imagine a big DC building, and they're there fighting it out in the, the lunchroom and things like that, where we always make jokes. I can picture Ram V going, okay, well, I really don't just have 6 issues, right? Like, hey, that's the joke, right, guys?
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, and they're like, no, you have 6. You're so funny. I mean, what do I have? Like 8? Do I have 9? You
editors crack me up.
And he's like, oh, yeah, exactly. And like, no, you have 6. And like, listen, I'm exclusive, and you gave Dennis Culver like, I don't get what extra? No, 6 issues. And he's like, oh shit. And then he ran, like, hightailed it back to his office to then like, oh crap, how am I going to do this? Because it feels like it snuck up on him. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, and by this point,
just like Swamp Thing.
And this point he realized, I'm not going to be able to tell a full story. So instead, I'll just set up the team because they've also promised me that we'll get it later. And that isn't a way to do things. This was, at one point, what I thought was a real promising series that I really was getting into, and I'm not a huge Ram V fan. By the end, I'm like, no, you just fucked around again. You did nothing. You didn't, pretty much nothing.
Did they promise us that Xanthi was going to come back from Spirit World?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. This is, again, we'll see how City Boy ends, but even that has gotten a little wonky with all of these. But here we are, the Vigil. What would you give this?
Thing is, it's not a strong ending because it's not ending. It's starting something new. It's just it's something that always disappoints me when you have 6 issues to tell a story and you're like, no, we're not doing that. But the way things turned out here with Castle explaining things, seeing the twists and turns about how the team are going to come back together, I found myself enjoying that. I found myself enjoying the art shown throughout here. It's not the strongest art by any means, but it's, the Vigil's art so far. I like it for the most part. This did not upset me until the idea that you're not telling a full story. This is no conclusion. This is just the beginning. So I'm going to give it a 6.3 out of 10 because I found myself having fun with characters I don't really care about, but I still think they're kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a 4. I'll just go a 5. Just not any sort of 5, just a regular 5. I'm even looking. It's like the idea where you're like, you'd start with the softest target. Nia Saw, like, you're already pushing things that never really I
You're
thought.
Badass.
And he's like, not really part of the team. I'm like, I kind of thought she was part of the. I know she's not a hero, but I thought she was part of the team.
She just started 2 weeks ago.
But she's still. But they were. I don't even know if they were made to. Just again. And then just like the idea of Arclight. Oh, and then there's Arclight. I gave him his daughter's photo to remind him of the reason he began doing this. He does tend to be pig-headed. I don't know that.
Sure
like,
does.
Again, you're saying these things as like,
El
man.
Nino.
And I'm supposed to be sitting there and going, you are right.
I am El Nino.
Like, I'm going to sit there. I'm like, oh, man, he nailed Arclight.
But maybe,
he nailed
right in
Arclight.
this trade, it will all come together very seamlessly.
Maybe. It's just weird because they're like, I hacked into the Indian Railway scheduling system and delayed his train. You'd cut the power to the station first, the obvious.
Sure
now
would.
we're playing the die-hard, playing by the book deal. I'm like, he would know that. He says something Arclight would know. Then Arclight's like, I'm like, well, I didn't know that. I mean, here's the thing. I end up where my power is pretty much flatulence. But again, I'm not a biologist. I don't know anything about that. I just know that I fart a lot, Eric. It doesn't mean that I'm smart in that area. I just do it. And I'm telling you, if I ended up having...
If you needed to use your power, what foods to eat to give you that power, though, right?
Everything. Again, I tell you right now that I could eat something. I could eat an Egg McMuffin right now, and I could fart in 30 seconds, and it would smell like an Egg McMuffin. You say that that's impossible. I'm the one doing the farting. Yeah. I should know. But even then, like, if you got electrical powers, there's no way in hell you'd know anything more about electric. You just go around zapping. You could
probably feel it.
You would never do, but it says that he would know that if it was delayed and they cut the power, that's what they would. I'm not arguing the fact. It just, when I read it, it just felt like you're just telling me things that I don't really sit there and say, oh yeah, like this is supposed to be one
Castle.
of those.
You did your job.
It's a surprise to the wall, but it seems more of a surprise to me.
Mr. Wall?
Mr. Wall. Mr. Wall's there and like, you would think this. I'm like, I'm with Mr. Wall here. I don't even know what the fuck he's doing. Like, he just got thrown in there. Hap, I can barely get my mind around. It's so wacky. But by the end, I know the Vigil, and I will look forward to seeing them again, because I think that they could be kind of a cool play and would really be a fun back and forth with, say,
Vigil versus Stormwatch.
Hanging out with Arclight. Like, who then? Like, all of a sudden, he, like, zaps him and gives him energy. I am Cliff. I'm the Robot Man. Is that what he said? You should have saw me moving.
Robot Man.
You should have saw me move. Well, just as much as I know classic Arclight. So I was moving my arms like a robot there, too. I love Cliff.
Do not compare Robot Man to Arclight.
You know what I love about Cliff? Is it that he's a Robot Man? Or is he's the most human of us all?
60 years of history to a guy that's been around for 6 months.
The Robot Man might be made of steel, but he's all heart. That's why I like the Robot Man. He's such a caring guy. Me and Gray just did issue number 26 of the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol.
Yeah, and in that, Dorothy Spinner stuff, right?
It was Dorothy the issue before. Then they came back and actually mentioned, hey, Joshua, I heard you and Dorothy had a crazy time. And like, hey, how are you, Dorothy? And Dorothy like jumps up in the air behind Cliff and like, I'm fine. And it just made me smile. I'm like, it was great. So good. And then Cliff's like, thank God. And I thought, you know what? Cliff comes back from all the shit with Red Jack that happened to him and Crazy Jane, but he was still more concerned about Dorothy. He's like, how are you doing, little girl? I like that. Just like Arclight. He was worried about
Hex and violence.
Fuck that. He ended up where he's worried about his daughter. Just like a Robot Man. I am the Arclight. Zap, zap.
Their daughter.
Zap, zap. I should get that from Bart. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a 5. But we'll move on to the next book. And next book that I guess, it's okay. It's just that it's one of those plays when you get
Golden Age adventure. A hidden years of Wesley Dodds the Sandman.
Well, and I read it, and it's yet another thing where I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't really care. I just don't care about the character. I see that it's written okay, but it's just
you don't care about the Mad Gasser, the antithesis to what Wesley Dodds the Sandman is.
Well, not the Mad Gasser. Isn't that what they called you in college? I think it might have been the Mad Gasser. That's actually what they call me after an Egg McMuffin. I was going to
say, they call me stay out of my room.
30 seconds with the Egg McMuffin, and you got the fucking Gasser. Give me the credit.
Wesley Dodds Sandman, number 2, written by Robert Venditti, with art by Riley Rossmo, Ivan Placencia, and Tom Napolitano. And as I was saying, the idea when the last issue we had, Wesley Dodds' home burned down. Before the house was set on fire and burned down, we had some random thief who broke in, who found the secret lair of Sandman, and not only his secret lair, but the secret journal that he kept of all the deadly chemicals and gases that he created, trying to create the perfect knockout gas so he could become the Sandman. And we find out in this, they also took, a gas mask as well, where they will use this deadly chemical, a gun and a gas mask, but they will go off at some point and become what I'm calling the Mad Gasser.
I like that you call it the Mad Gasser. At one point, Wesley starts thinking, he's like, listen, I ended up going to the government.
Gasser.
And it's like an epiphany. He's like, I think that maybe deep down, I really don't want to kill people. I think I might be what they call a pacifist. I still go with the idea that if I'm the general, right, and I'm sitting there, one arm, right? Didn't he have one?
Yeah.
The idea like, hey, we have a sleep gas. I'm immediately like, oh, you mean that non-lethal thing that afterwards I shoot everybody in the head while they're sleeping? I will take that sleep gas. Thank you, Wesley Dodds. Might not tell him that, but I'm taking that. The idea that he's like, oh, these deadly things, unlike my sleep gas, that could be pretty deadly. I don't know. But the whole play of this, of the burned down house, and we know that the big play is, oh my God, somebody's got my journal. You start to kind of meander a bit in this. And in a story like this, where I really don't have much of a connection, I'm being completely honest. I don't really care about Wesley Dodds, the Sandman. I've read some of the Sandman mystery theory. It's fine, but the character itself is not anything that I really do care about. And in the whole play of things, I can't say that at this point, I think that I need to, like, you have that JSA book, but that's ending at issue 12. I don't know if they're going to do anything more because Jeff Johns is going off to do his ghost thing or whatever his imprint is over at Image tied in with that. So I don't even know if it's going to continue. So when I end up having a book like this, I'm like, do I really need to care? And in this, when you meander and like, okay, we're going to do some detective work. That's kind of cool, but it starts to be a slog in my mind.
For the most part, with these 3 books that are coming out, besides for like Jay Garrick, The Flash, which is dealing with stuff from the past in a present day sense, Alan Scott's Green Lantern.
That could end up as something, though, right?
No. That one has the most promise because of all the stuff that's been built into it. When the Alan Scott one and this one, these are period pieces dealing with like golden age, like JSA individual member stuff, which is cool because you're not going to get these type of stories anywhere else. But the stuff that you're dealing with is like early days for the character. Like Alan Scott, people are all up in arms because he's gay, so they're not even going to give it a chance half the time, it seems like, anyway. But they at least have the idea of the new Golden Age Red Lantern they set up previously from all the different stuff that we had.
That's where you have grabbed onto one.
Exactly. I can't wait to see the origins of this character that we never got to know. Like I'm saying, that one and this one feel like the hidden year stories that like, okay, it's a piece of this that you can throw into the mix of these comics and they can feel legit.
Well, and we had Alan Scott was actually a Patreon spotlight that if these things don't disappear. If you want to hear us talk about it, you can go to the Patreon, patreon.com/weirdscience there. But Eric was really more intrigued than me because of the idea of that Red Lantern and what this could mean. And
the antithesis of it, like the Mad Gasser is to the Sandman.
Yeah, so when you end up here, Red Lantern, yeah, that's cool. Like you said, a lot of people, the sexuality is going to throw them off and everybody has their own reasons or whatnot. I'm not here to say, whatever. But in this, the Mad Gasser, like, I don't know that I'm that much excited. Like, you tried to get me excited with a Red Lantern tying into the Soviets. That seems cool, at least.
It does. And it seems like it has a purpose tied into something that's connected to the Starheart, but in a different sense. Like, that work feels like it works here. But there's some guy who we have this mystery, which I want to say will somehow turn out to deal with Mr. Vanderlyle, who's kind of like the old friend of Wesley Dodds' father, who's trying to help him with the military contract. This Rockefeller type guy, he has everything to lose in this situation. It almost feels like this entire story so far, and it's only been 2 issues. This guy's really counting on selling a military contract using Wesley Dodds' stuff. The sleep gas didn't work. Well, what else has Wesley got? And that's where you go. But this weird Mr. Vanderlyle, who is his, Wesley's father's age, it just seems weird for him to put on a gas mask and have a gas gun with deadly chemicals and start doing shit. But it feels like the only place we have right now.
Because I think it's Vanderlyle, but then when you think about it, it's like, is he testing shit out this way?
Exactly. Why does he have to dress like the Sandman with a black gas mask to show you that he's evil and do this?
I think he dresses like a Sandman meets the Draculus. I mean, I'm telling you, right there, he looks like the Draculus. But even then, the only thing that I could think of, but it doesn't really play out, would be if it is him that he's like, well, I want to do this, but I also have to take care of Wesley because he's going to end up wanting credit, or he's going to know, or he's going to do this, and maybe even connecting to his dad. We're going to find out some, nefarious things that might have happened there. And so that's completely makes sense. We're 2 issues in. It seems very obvious, so maybe it isn't.
But it feels too obvious.
I know, but at this point, 2 issues in, we really don't have much of another option, which we can get. But even though when you're doing this, again, I don't have much of a care or connection with Wesley Dodds. I think that a lot of people They just want to read stuff from Venditti, which he's a good writer.
I just wish that Riley Rossmo wasn't on art with this.
Well, I actually went through this issue the first time. Didn't really think of the art at all, which is that's a hell of a praise from me for
I agree, because this is the best thing in my mind that Riley Rossmo has done, but it still has that air to it where I want something that feels more polished, more comic book house style.
I think that I'm actually not really telling the full truth, because when I did go through, when I first had where there's a lady going by with her dog on the first page, I think it's really cool. And what Riley Rossmo does do parts is have like the smoke and mirrors for the title is the smoke coming off of the building. You have that he loves doing those little like, here's a segment where, there's Wesley DODDS in the building, but a lady's walking her dog. Then you get to the next page and you end up having, the guy, the chief deal with the big fireman's hat. It looks just like that hat that lady was wearing. I'm like, that's the other guy. And I got a little confused. And then some of the expressions are a little over the top. It was the style of the time.
People just walked around wearing fire chief helmets.
Even the idea where I like where he's going through his burned down office and he's like, oh man. And to really push the point that his journal is gone, you have these moths come out. I'm like, man, those things, they survived the fire. Good for them. Good for them moths, right? So you're doing all this though. And again, the whole play of, okay, I got to see what's going on. Oh, my journal's gone. Oh, my God. Again, we kind of knew that or thought that before. You actually said, I think somebody's going to steal his journal. They ended up stealing some gas masks, all that stuff going on. But then you meander a bit. You're ending up where you're going to go and kind of try to knock some heads to try to get some info, but they don't really feel like they have info. It's weird.
Wesley DODDS even has, like, you want to have that grand reveal of the mad gasser at the end. Like, they're like, but... You also have Wesley DODDS having his premonition dreams, knowing that the Mad Gasser is already out and about. Like, I don't know if Wesley fully understands it yet, but you have that in the middle of the book already showing
I hope he's called the Mad Gasser. I really hope so. And yeah, he ends up, and that's even when he sees that, it's kind of like that play of, oh man, I had a dream, and they wanted me to, hook up with the military. I was going to give him the sleep gas, but they wanted more deadly things. And I realized I'm a pacifist, but then it looks like he is being given a premonition of somebody else going that extra step to do all that stuff. And again, it makes sense that it's his dad's friend. But then when he gets in, he's like, okay, I'm going to do some things. I'm going to go down. I'm going to look through the records room, and it just starts to meander.
Well, that's the thing, is we at least have something going on, because if the journal was stolen, the gas mask and the gas guns were stolen, why do we have a dead body that was found in the house for what they believe to be a failed robbery and arson to cover the tracks? But there's a dead body in there. Okay, we have to figure out who these, missing people that's been going around. So we're going to break in, we're going to take some photos and do this thing to try to figure out who this person could be, and then go around and knock some skulls to find out who this person was that's missing, that we think that is the person they found dead in the house, by going around the old associates of them and just try to figure out what's going on with this mystery. But it just kind of takes a long time just to try to beat some people up, throw some gas around just to find out, like, hey, who's this person? Oh, he doesn't work with us no more. He went legit. Oh, and all these people that he's beating up, that he's trying to gas out because he's a Sandman, they ain't falling asleep because they like the meth.
They like the meth. They're on the
just like the Nazis.
You end up where Venditti, I don't know why that's for meth, Eric, but it is now. So when you're doing this, I think that Venditti does a really good job of even setting up, like, this is why old shit is boring to people anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is like an old-time movie where you're going to have these scenes that may not, and I always say, if you're doing detective work, you have to show some dead ends, because then that's real detective work. It really shows you the deal, but it can't be the one thing that you show here. And it takes a long time. He goes into the records room. Diana ends up helping him out. He gets in. At one point, the old man guard, he comes in. Hey, somebody left, and he's outside on the ledge. I mean, there's so many things that don't really need to happen, but they're okay. And then you go off, like you said, where he finds this one guy. He connects him. I mean, you're even there for a whole page where he's doing in the dark room.
He's developing the film, yeah.
I'm like, all right, like it's cool. It's cool. Again,
he ain't got no Polaroid.
That's where I think that it's a cool play, that he is really giving you a period piece. He really is, but there's some things about that might not be that exciting, and it really slows the pace down. But again, a Sandman book it should be like this, but he does end up going,
I gotta find the associates of Igor Klug. What was he doing in my house, and what is he up to, and like, who is he working with?
you get these guys with their sack of money. Hey there, where's the Jimmy? What was it? Hey, Stevie, you doing on the lookouts? Yeah, I'm on the lookouts, man. I'm on the meth. Hey,
how
shit's
odd
going
is it, though?
crazy.
We have these people who are robbing this bank, right? Oh, actually, this post office, because they have all
or
this
a
stuff.
department store. They actually say that it was really like gangbusters.
Yeah, because they're going in the safe at that point. My bad. I was trying to remember because of the stuff they stole. I was trying to make it work out in my mind. But the idea then, we have Sandman beat the crap out of him. He has to, try harder than he usually does because they're all methed up and not falling asleep right away. But we have to talk about the idea of Stevie, who's not normally a part of this. It's like a son-in-law or something like a sister's nephew, like a nephew situation. And he's the one who's out there. He's not really doing much. Right? And then at the thing is, when the shit starts hitting the fan, Stevie's like, "Oh shit, I better get the fuck out of here." Runs outside, gets hit by a car in front of 2 police officers. I'm like, why did we spend so much time with Stevie? Talking about Stevie. Motherfucker ran into the street, got hit by a car, and is dead.
Stevie's dead. I'm like, I hardly knew you, Stevie. I like when at one point they're in there, and they're talking like it was a character. I actually at first was a little like, who the fuck's this Stevie? They're like, hey, I told you to keep a lookout, Stevie. Stevie is right there at the door and says, how much longer? I think he's still looking out. Hey, I told you to look out, Stevie. Hey, I told you his sister's kid never was good for nothing. And then they get gas. They're on meth. They end up getting gas more. At one point, Wesley shoves.
Sandman is shoving the barrel into this dude's mouth, just trying to throw as much gas in. It's almost like the scene in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, where the stuff's not working, so they shove the fire extinguishers to try to make the catalyst work. Like they're sort of shoving this shit in his face, just throwing all they can into it. And the guy's still not asleep.
I love the idea that Wesley is like, I think I'm a pacifist. He gets in this fight. At one point, have some mercy on these guys. Hit them over the head with your gun or something. I mean, at that one point, this guy's going to drown and just suffocate with this shit in his mouth. I don't know what that's all about. And then Stevie runs off and gets hit by a car. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Stevie, how could you? And then it's like, it was a dead end. Made me giggle. Tell you, we're talking about all this. I didn't hate this issue. I actually didn't care either way. That's my biggest problem. I talk about this with characters that I even do like. Right now, over at Marvel, you have a new Daredevil run, and we're a couple issues in, and I don't have that hook. I don't have the thing that grabs me to say, I need to keep reading this. It's even harder with a character I don't care about. And so by the end, when you end up seeing the Mad Gasser, I'm like, that's not quite the hook yet. But I'll tell you right now, Stevie wins the day. I actually had fun laughing about Stevie, so we can go. But what the telltale thing of this, and I think maybe you'll agree, we're going through this laughing about Stevie, right? I start back paging to see when he first there. Hey, you on the lookout, Stevie. Get to the end where he dead, and I'm like, oh shit, that was the end of the issue. I forgot that was it. That's it. We got nothing. We ended up having a dead end, and the fact that Stevie ends up dying, is this going to be tied in the Daredevil? Is Wesley going to feel very responsible for Stevie's death here because they didn't really have a connection to this guy? But I don't think I need that. We have 6 issues here. Mad Gasser. Mad Gasser looks cool. I actually think that as I look at it, the main parts of this that you really need to nail with the art, I think Riley Rossmo does a really good job. The Mad Gasser, the stuff with the, Wesley going around. Some of the faces look a little odd. Most of the people with Riley Rossmo have dead eyes anyway, so poor Stevie, I wasn't sure he was dead, but they dead end. Oh, Stevie. Oh, Stevie, you didn't make it, but by the end, I didn't hate it. I just don't know why I need to read it, and I hope that eventually I get that feel. But again, okay, what would you give it?
Yeah, I think I would give it a 6.3 out of 10, maybe a 6.5.
I'm giving it a 6.5
here.
Yeah.
It's just not a lot here for what's going on. Like, I look forward to the next issue for what was set up here, but for the main adventure of the story, we did our due diligence, but it was kind of boring to get to where I want to actually be. So it's weird because, like I said, Riley Rossmo art, not a fan personally, but this is the best Riley Rossmo art that I've seen, and it works well in certain places here. So I can't really be too angry about that. It's just, I don't know, it's just not something that really grabs a hold of me. And that's too, the Wesley Dodds Sandman, not really a character. I talked about this in the first issue. Not one of my favorite JSA members. I could actually, like you say, take him or leave him. I could always leave him because I find the other characters way more fun, way more cool. It's just, here we are, Wesley Dodds, 1940s. and we're doing some Sandman stuff, but I don't know if I actually need that right now. But it's not terrible, the stuff that I'm reading. It just doesn't, last with me.
6-5 for me is, like you said, and that's exactly how I feel. The thing, and I notice, and what I mean, when I say that he hits the things that you need to, when he's Sandman, it's when you get the regular people like Diane, they're wacky. They look crazy, but it doesn't matter because I don't really care about them. They look wacky. They all look like mannequins. They're all walking around with that mannequin look.
Even you got a gas mask on, though. You look badass.
Damn right. And I think that at one point, also you get wacky stuff. That dream sequence was really cool. The horrific bit of it. That's where Riley Rossmo's part works. And we talked about it. Anytime you get Riley Rossmo, if you get way over the top, supernatural, wacky stuff, acid trip, he's in. He's really good. It's just the regular, everyday Joe and Jane that you're like, who is that? Dead eyes, a mannequin, necks out the wazoo. Holy moly. But 6-5. And I hope that people, because recently I have been getting a little bit upset because people have been pointing out, oh, you guys are so negative. You're so negative. But I hope that people realize, it's not just the score. A 6-5 for me for a Wesley Godsend. That's pretty positive because I have no connection and I'm having fun talking about it. So I hope that they realize that a 6-5 is not always just awful. It's actually pretty good here. But we'll finish up with what, Eric?
World's Finest, Teen Titans #5, written by Mark Waid with art by Emanuela Lupacchino, Jordi Belair, and Steve Wands. And it's such a weird place to be in this part of the series because each issue, for the most part, besides for the team squabbling about everything that's going on where they don't feel like friends or a family that I want the Teen Titans to be like, they're all just little anthology stories, it feels like. Here's a little thing here, here's a little thing here. And the only thing that really feels like it's connected is the idea of the Terror Titans in the background, which only really felt like it was coming to a head last issue, and the idea that our team is not really a team yet because this is still early days. At least this issue, it feels like we're actually getting somewhere with what we're doing. Yes, they're still squabbling, and yes, I still hate that. But the stakes actually feel like they matter here, and we're actually doing something, and I'm really appreciative of that. I just wish we didn't wait till issue #5, the penultimate issue of the series, to start doing it.
Again, this feels like the pacing of the Vigil. Though the problem with this one is, we know these characters. So you had some of these vignettes, which were cool, and you want to see the back in the day stuff here. Though I love here that at points back in the day just means a couple months before, but you end up where you're going through this where suddenly in the 5th of 6 issues, you feel, here's the story.
Oh, the person that's in the background that's putting together the Terror Titans that, I started to say, hey, is this Charlie Parker? Are they going with the old continuity of Golden Eagle being a bad guy eventually? And the thing is, it's like, oh no, you have to wait for this issue where we find out that 3 months ago they were trying out a new member for the team that didn't work out called Haywire, and he held a grudge. So now he's going to put together the Terror Titans by bringing together a bunch of other, Teen Titan villains like Toy Boy and the Ant and stuff along those lines.
People thought that was you, Eric.
I am the Toy Boy. I really am. The Toy Man-Child. But, I don't know. For some reason, when we get this, though, it's very disappointing. It's almost like the idea of, people put Friday the 13th, the first, horror movie on the series, on a pedestal. This is, what started all. This is a great, murder mystery. Who done it? But, you can't play along with that because it's not till the end where it's Mrs. Voorhees. Exactly. Oh, we didn't know this character until right
Scream.
Now. No, it's not like Scream. It's not like Scream at all because you knew all those characters and who that could be. Mrs. Voorhees, Haywire shows up out of nowhere at the final page of the last issue. You don't know who this is, and you finally get a backstory here in the penultimate issue. So now it finally works out. I like what they're doing with how this is going to work. I just wish it didn't feel like it was so out of nowhere.
So
here.
Like Star Wars. All of a sudden, Luke and Leia, they're making out, and then all of a sudden, oh god, they're brother and sister. It's sexier than I ever thought.
If you actually want to make an analogy, you go to Return of the Jedi, or where Yoda's about to. I think it's where it's Empire Strikes Back, and where Yoda says, "No, there is another." So you have that,
and then it gets sexy. Is what happens, right? That's the play. So you end up here, and again, like you said, and this is the whole play, Laura. It doesn't feel like there was that much of a story going on, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, I better tell it. But my main play, and you're going to tell me that, well, the team just started. That's fine. But 5 issues in here, and I'm just sick of them arguing. I'm sick. I agree. I don't know why I know why. It's just because Mark Waid wants to tell it this way, but can we ever get a team like this that it's like, oh my God, we were meant to be together and I really like each other and let's find out about each other and let's have fun. Because I actually just wanted to have fun with this. I just wanted to have fun with this book. And when you go through it, you end up having little vignettes, little stories where you could have had fun. And then when you get to the end here where you finally like, oh man, here's like you have to just keep reminding yourself that we only have one more issue left. And again, why did we waste all this time? This could have been issue number 3, number 2. We could have just had the idea where it started with, hey, we're going to try this haywire out because we're a new team. Let's try to get together and have some fun there, boys and girls. And then it doesn't work. And then you go from there. It seems like we started out almost introducing characters we know in a way that, okay, they're arguing, whatever, but we kind of know them. We also like the Bumblebee and Mal Duncan stuff. You kind of push that aside now. I didn't mind that, but some of the other stuff, like the idea of like, you just keep, I mean, Donna is just on repeat. It's Pete and repeat with the, well, I went to the rodeo, but guys, he don't like that, so I did this and this. I'm like, I had enough of that.
I don't like the bickering that we have between our team, but I feel in this issue at least that everything is actually coming together in a cohesive story. From everything we've seen, it's all coming to a head here, and it makes sense in a story-wise.
It's fine. I
to
just
a point
don't
where
I
don't like it, but I think that it makes sense, and it's told well from the way that, like, you know, individually, I didn't care for everything we had because it all felt like one and done. Here, it feels like everything finally comes together to a head to where the team will want to break up if something doesn't change to the point where we have our cliffhanger, where Dick Grayson reveals his identity to the rest of the team for the first time against Batman's orders.
I know the whole play, again, is they're a new team. They may not get along, but it's starting to feel like what we hate. Now, it's a team, so it kind of hides the play here, but a character like, oh, man, that character's a pain in the ass in this. Oh. And then we get back to the status quo, and we're supposed to applaud that. That's what this is starting to feel like, that at the end, next issue, man, we are a team. This is great. And I'm like, but that's what I wanted from the beginning. I wanted to have fun like that in issue 1, not 3 pages at the end.
Now, I'll tell you, too, I look forward to the idea of, you know, a Terror Titans put together by a disgruntled former member of the Teen Titans or somebody who wanted to be. Haywire seems like he could be a cool character. But the idea that he's the head of this whole thing where we then have the Ant, which I wish we would have seen like a recruitment bit instead of him just attacking Bumblebee and
But we could have if this was introduced earlier. You know what I mean?
Toy Boy at least had an entire issue where we could see like his infatuation with Bumblebee, Karen. And so you had that at least. But then out of nowhere, and then Artemis Croc shows up. I'm like, why is Artemis here? Like, it's cool that she's here, but she's just here out of nowhere and a part of the team. Like, I wish you would have done an entire issue to bring Artemis Croc into this because that's cool.
And I realize at this point where I always tell you that I hate the idea of getting sliced in the back of the knee. I also wouldn't want my Achilles to be sliced. I really don't want an arrow going through my wrist. I'm telling you, when he gets that, I'm like, he ends up pulling that arrow out and then just sucking the blood like a Dracula's. And I'm like, you are kick-ass. I was like, Roy is fucking kick-ass because I would be done. I would be down crying, shitting my pants. I mean, that is vicious. And you end up having it as kind of pushed aside. Like, he ends up really recovering very quickly from that. Again, the idea of Roy having problems because Oliver doesn't pay attention. We've had that throughout.
What he had with his friends from the last issue as well.
And we don't, like, there's not really a space to resolve that except to say, oh, you're pretty cool. Like, we're already past what I think we have the real estate for, which would have been pretty cool. I do like that. But I would have liked at one point for somebody to get along. I mean, this is the idea. Like, you could have the play of, you know, Haywire, you have this play where, okay, there's this new guy. Right away, you can tell. Who thought that this guy was ever going to fit in? Like, he doesn't fit in right away. So instead of having that, Roy's like, have that play where the team kind of are all friends and one of the Roy is going to enter and, hey, he doesn't quite get along and we build towards that. But everybody in this issue is just at a point where they just hate each other. And it just doesn't seem...
And it takes Dick Grayson to show them the sacrifices that he's willing to make against Batman's wishes to reveal himself, because that's ultimately what everybody comes down to.
Right?
Oh, it looks so good. But, like, everybody has their own little squabbles with each other. The way that, you know, Donna and Garth are dating, but, like, they don't understand each other. Roy's upset at Wally and Garth for what they said previously. Well, like, Robin goes ham on Wally this time, telling him to stop being a kid and grow up. So we have all these problems, but it does seem like the sacrifice that he makes by revealing his identity to the rest of them, who all know each other, because they've all revealed their identities except for Robin. This is going to be the thing that gets them to, like, you know, to work together. Plus, Robin knows how to defeat Haywire and the Terror Titans. But he needs his team to work together.
I love it. And he's trying to make them, work. And I like that. He's there. He's the tactician. He's like, okay, you go there. And nobody's listening. They're on their own, and they're not going to be able to survive.
They don't see him as a leader yet because they don't trust him.
Because they're yelling at each other. You're this, you're that. And I went at the one point where they do say, and I think that it's the play. Remember Bumblebee? Her big thing at that crazy Titans, whatever. Titans Con was like, I can never she was, but are we going to ever find out exactly what she meant? Because it was so over the top. But even in that, I think that it was one of those where she is nice. I think her saying, listen, they're right, because he's not going to do it for Roy. He's pissed off at her.
Nobody's going to do shit for Roy.
No, nobody's doing anything for Roy because, again, even the play of, and Haywire brings it up, but the play of, Wally and the online stuff, Roy and that, that's already pushed aside as well. But when Bumblebee says they're right and she's actually talking sensible, it feels weird. You're not doing that. And you get a really cool play where I wanted somebody to be like, he's a goddamn Dracula. Look, his shadow is a bat. Look at it. He's the Batman. That makes sense.
Come on. That's a cool visual style right there.
It. And because he's saying, I can't.
I'm sorry, guys, but I walk within the shadow of the bat at all times now.
He does. And he's like, I can't disagree with that. And it's kind of a cool play. I wanted this because everybody's shocked. He takes off the mask and
that's
they're
a great
looking
turn
at
on the page because this whole time he tells them, I can't reveal who I am because we all know the reasons. And when he has the whole thing at the last panel of that page, I can't. You have to turn the page to see, I can't disagree with that. Not anymore. And he takes the mask. That's a great transition.
I wanted this to be like the idea where he's like, all right, I'm Dick Grayson. One of two things. They just go back to arguing. They're in shock. It would be that classic, sitcom moment with
You mean the Flying Grayson, Dick Grayson?
And then they had,
because all kids love acrobats.
Yeah, really, Dick Grayson. And then Donna's like, by the way, you don't want to come with me, and you end up not talking. They just go back to arguing. Or, even better, they're shocked. They're in silence. And then suddenly Roy yells out, holy shit, Bruce Wayne's Batman. He just yells it out.
I honestly am telling you, I am waiting that too because it would have been national news like this death where billionaire Bruce Wayne takes in this orphan acrobat whose parents were killed in front of him. National news.
And what I hope the play is everybody, but
Batman's
maybe
pissed.
they're not thinking it out. Oh my, Batman's like, holy shit! You have Roy though. Maybe that can be the play here that Roy ends up at the end hey, by the way, tell Bruce I said hi. As kind of a thing of I'm not going to tell anybody.
At this point in time, for the most part, even though Roy's overplays his hand with what he says, they are kindred spirits where they're freaking they are the words of billionaires.
And I liked it. He said well, me and Roy, they probably have the, mirror image. You have his mentor and mine. So I thought that was cool. I really want to have a play where somehow the rest of them are idiots. They don't even bother because they have their...
Garth and Donna should have no reason to understand or know any of that to begin with.
Yeah, and I want... Because Roy, I think, would figure it out immediately. And I want him to, at some point, maybe you're trying to force the reveal, but he doesn't let up, but then he lets Dick know that he knows, and that makes him close. I feel
like Karen would know because I feel like she's smart enough to put two and two together because she seems like, a learned gal. I think that Wally's too involved with being a kid to really care what's going on with her.
But he's so into
national news.
Dick. I mean, Wally is so into Dick that you can't even get away from him being that into Dick. I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah.
But he loves Robin. I think that Wally, like you said, is a kid, but he doesn't get past the idea of loving Robin.
I don't think he knows who a Bruce Wayne is, though.
He may not. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but Roy would. That'd be pretty cool. I think that might
out of all of these that I think anything, Roy and Karen would get be able to put two and two together.
This series has not been one of my favorites, and it's a shame because I thought it was really good. I'll tell you though, that last panel where it's Dick and he's like, "Hey, I'm Dick Grayson. Hey, I would have loved it. What's the Flying Graysons? You're famous, dude." We laugh, and just to let everybody know, we laugh at the idea that to this day. They keep trying to push that the Flying Graysons are trapeze artist circus, that these are the biggest things that everybody knows, that they are like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. Oh my God, the Flying Graysons. So we always laugh, but...
Maybe in the 40s, that was a high attraction, but anymore, name me one acrobat family. Trapeze
the Flying
family.
Melindas. There you go, Eric.
Yeah.
But that is...
You could have made that up.
But again, I didn't.
I don't know.
Still, that's like the only one that I would know. But the idea, like in this day and age, like circuses are done. You don't even really have them anymore. People jumping around with tigers and shit. You still have that, right? I think. And Chris Angel.
Do they?
I don't know. But you end up.
Siegfried and Roy?
Siegfried and Roy. Tanya's aunt. I told you this before. Tanya's aunt actually designed those awful costumes that Siegfried and Roy pranced around in. A lot of those were her aunt's doing. I don't think she should be proud of that. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, look at this thing. So when the one got attacked and mauled by the Siberian tiger, like, look at her, Anastasia, she loves the spotlight. And then it ended up getting attacked. It was a real down day.
Is that just a Simpsons reference?
That was a Simpsons deal. I just saw that. The Anastasia.
When they predicted that to happen years before it did?
They did. It did happen.
Soothsayers.
Like, she loves the spotlight. Then thinks back at when, come here, tiger. And ended up hitting her with the dart. But yeah, by the end, I think that panel of, my name is Dick Grayson, and I'm here to say, I like to beat the Terror Titans every day, is what I think he says, Eric. But by the end, I think that's the best panel of the week. I'm excited now, but unfortunately, we have one issue, and it doesn't make this whole issue great in my mind.
Like a few pages ahead of that, when he puts his hand out at them in a cool angle where there's no panel breaking things up, where he says enough. I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, that's honestly, cool. I like when he has the Batman shadow too.
That's good. But even though they're not working together as a team, when they are taking on Toy Boy the Ant and Artemis Croc and Haywire,
yeah, the art looks
all
great.
That. I'm telling you, Emmanuel Lupacchino is one of my favorite artists at DC Comics. When she's over there, and I think the book always looks great. Mark Waid, he's like, I just want to have fun. But the way I have fun is having a team that has fun together. The squabbling is what brings everything down.
I get that you want to tell a story of them coming together, but it's just not
exactly
the way I like it, the way it's
played out. But even the
out.
idea of them coming together, because they've been a team for at least 3 months, probably more, because Haywire is going to be a new member, so they already have a team together at that point in time. So, I feel like for the most part, yes, they're still young. They still don't understand how to work together as a team. Like, Robin's pushing himself as leader, because why wouldn't he? He's the fucking sidekick of Batman. You just have all these different personalities that are going to butt heads. It's not what I want to see from this, but I think ultimately throughout the series progression of this, it makes sense from where we went from here to here to here to where we have a reason to come together as a team with what Robin has sacrificed here with his identity.
I like Haywire. He's he's a go-getter. This guy, he says 3 months ago, he considers that back in the day. He went and got himself a team that quick. But you get pretty much the moral of the story is that we all come together. All you have to do is expose a little dick, is what happens, Eric. By the end, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm with it. It might get you in trouble someplace. You got to watch out, but it could work. So by the end, the art, I'm looking at it. It's incredible. And Jordi Belair, and it is Jordi Belair on colors, correct? Yeah. Hates us, Eric. Just hates our guts. Blocked us.
That's a shame.
Shit on us. One of the best colorists in comics. Just so good. That proves right there. See, I'm saying this. No vendettas, Eric. There's nothing with that. The colors pop. The whole thing looks, and she even does the play where you have that where, okay, let's see some things that might have happened a little bit before, and you have that little less of a pop of the colors, not quite like
the flashback,
sepia.
The muted color's great.
It's just it's muted like at the perfect point to still look great, but know that it is it's done great. I mean, really, really good.
We are a team enough in this for Wonder Girl to have her original costume to the point where she has a newer costume with what's currently going on. What is this whole thing? They've been together a long time.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I will tell you that maybe this year we'll have an end-of-year awards. It's not really our thing, but I think I'm going to vote for the Jordi Belair. Hey, I'm for it. What would you give it?
Well, that's the thing, is we had the squabbling last issue, but I said that the best part of last issue was when Mal and Karen got together and were doing Bumblebee and Harold stuff. It was great. This issue, you get more of that, plus the rest of the team. They're still squabbling, but it comes to a head to a point which makes sense to me, and we can get over that now. The Terror Titans are revealed. We have a bunch of members. Hopefully there's some more for the finale. I would have liked to see more of the Terror Titans and them being put together instead of the squabbling, but this is my favorite issue of the series so far, and it makes me think, this is what we could have been getting.
That's what I get upset about.
And I'm like, this could have been really good. And I wish we would have more, but I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going to match that, Eric, because I need to have a definitive book of the week. I really did I didn't really like, but I think that Green Lantern was kind of cool. But at the end of this, if you took away Dick, then I'm not in. But once you show me Dick,
I hear that.
I'm in. So 7.5. Again, what's your book of the week, Eric?
My book of the week is World's Finest Teen Titans number 5.
It is mine as well. Actually, a lot of times when I go through these books for the podcast, I really have an idea of, okay, that's definitely my book of the week. I actually thought it was going to be Green Lantern, but you have convinced me. And as we were talking, we're getting to that point, and at least we have one issue left. Unlike the Vigil, where if we had one issue left of that, maybe that could have been really cool the next issue as well. But at least we have it here. We'll see the Terror Titans and Toy Boy and the Ants. And
Toy Boys! Honestly, I'm just excited about Artemis Croc being here, because it's a character you don't get to see very often.
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to fight them again. You would think that Roy will now shoot her in the wrist, right? That,
why not?
Eye for an eye, as I say. Also, I like the idea that poor Mal, like what Dick's like, hey, make yourself useful, asshole. You got to shield.
What do you think that's bad? Wally, the heart of this team so far, he actually yells at Karen about letting somebody on the team like that. I'm like, Adam, how dare you,
he
Wally?
was off. He broke his ankle, and then Dick say like, "Oh man, you're just a stupid dumb kid. Grow the hell up, asshole." And actually, again, with the art, the emotion, when you see like Wally is so upset, but like I like Wally where. He might forgive. He ain't forgetting, because when it comes up, I thought I was a dumb kid. That's like I love that he throws it back, because that actually shows a little bit of like a growing up for him.
Look at the thing when Robin says that to him. Look how betrayed and hurt he is during that fight.
That's what I'm looking. That emotion that
he's crying a little bit.
It does. It's really good.
His hero snapped at him after his ankle snapped at him.
And it's really, it's even more of just a hero. This is a hero friend. Like, this is somebody that you really look up to, like a bigger brother. I mean, it's really more like that, like a big hero. And the guy just broke his ankle for him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going, like, what are you doing, asshole? You just barking orders at us, you prick. Like, really, Wally's a nice kid.
Which might be a problem, but nobody's listening to him, though.
Yeah. Wally's
That's why he's barking.
I do like to I usually hate it, but I for some reason I like the boxing club. Some of the things crack me up.
It's cool.
Yeah. I actually thought it was a funny play that
days.
When you're doing that, and then you're like, oh man, really? And it ended up being Artemis Croc that did that. Would have been funny, but why would she hit the Toy Boys? I don't know. Eric doesn't like them. I don't like Toy Boy. I'll tell you that. But
he's just a little toy man.
You're not supposed to like the villains. Yeah, I don't like those John Lennon glasses, like an asshole.
Which is weird, because we have Artemis Croc here. Haywire feels like it's a new character. I feel like Toy Boy was a new character as well, but now I have to question myself, like, is this a classic Teen Titans?
No, I think Toy Boy definitely was a new character. Haywire seems like something, but I think is a new one as well. But again, Haywire seems like one of those kids, like your buddies, like, hey, you have your gang you run around with, like we had when we were younger. And like my friends, we'd play a lot of sports.
Want to see a dead body?
Football, we'd see that, or go find some porno in the woods. But the idea where
I get you.
We'd have these guys. We'd play football, and then they add this other guy. Like, hey, I asked this guy Chris Greenidge to get involved. This is specific because this guy shows up and he's like, "Hey, anybody chew?" And I'm like, I don't think this guy's gonna fit in, because no, unless you're saying Bubblicious, get the fuck out of here. The guy had like this big red man deal, and we're like, no. And he's like, almost played the idea. It'd be cooler if you
got some of that big league chew, some of that shredded gum. I love that shit.
Man. Like, and we're playing football, and he wants to chew. I'm like, that doesn't work. The guy was weird.
That was the guy who was held back a few years.
He was actually, and also had a little bit of a stank to him. He wasn't exactly.
That's because he was more mature than the rest of you, because he had been held back.
Maybe
a few
that's
years.
it. He also, because we're playing football. And you'd go to tackle him. He had like a little bit of a shine to him. He had a little bit of a slimy, like you'd go get up.
That's called grease.
It was disgusting. It was weird. And then nobody wanted to tackle him because
come on, pizza face, calm down.
Shit like that. Yeah, I guess I had a bit. Yeah. I was trying to think of the time. It might have been right before that.
just to understand.
Yeah. I remember, though, it was one of those things where I believe that it was the same guy where, we'd play tackle football. So we're playing.
Yeah.
And the guy ended up like, this guy's not going to tackle me, Eric. I mean, seriously. I was the Quakertown Comet. So I'm running, and the guy like dove, and he grabbed my shirt and like ripped my shirt off of my deal. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's not a...
He thought it was flag football.
Like, hey, you want some chew? Like, fuck you, asshole. I was so mad. The guy's Chris Greenidge. If he's listening...
Now, the thing is, you say this, Did you hang out with him more than this time?
No, I think that was it. I think that
How the hell did you remember his name?
I don't know, but that's his name. He, again, I was just going to say he lived back in our, but all these kids did back in our development.
Oh, yeah.
And, Chris Green. I don't know why, but I remember I was so angry. I think maybe because I went home and I had to explain it to my mom and dad why my shirt was like ripped off.
I'll forgive, but I'll never forget.
Yeah, Chris Greenidge. And it was Herb. Herb was the one who brought him. I'm like, Herb, you better stop this bullshit. Herb lived over on like Pennington Lane and shit like that.
Yeah.
That place, that's bad. Like back over
that's
there.
That's where the bad kids lived.
It
the
was.
further in you get.
Yeah, he was way back in there. I'm like, what are you bringing this asshole for? You're lucky you're allowed to be around us. Herb, I feel bad. Herb looked like Charlie Bucket from Willy Wonka, and people would say that. And Herb was one of those guys who would try to play the jokes up. If somebody's going to make fun of him, he's like, hey, and so he would start saying, I've got a golden ticket, with a tear running down his face. It hurt him so bad. And I'm like, the fuck are you doing that, Herb? I used to get so mad. Like, I was the one who would get in fights with people.
Kids called me Elvis when I first moved to town.
And you did a lot of the moves, right?
Yeah, and I did. I really wish I hadn't because I'm a goddamn idiot. I just didn't know how to react to that whole thing because it's just so dumb, too, because it seemed like nobody in my generation actually knew what Elvis was. Not even this is because the reason I was called Elvis, Jim, I had long hair.
Okay.
You know, like Elvis.
The funny
with
play
thick glasses.
It only takes one guy to say it who may kind of know. And the rest of them just go with it because the other guy did. They're probably like, and so I'm sure you did that. Hey, mama, what's up there, mama? And they had no idea what the fuck you were doing. They're like, why is he talking
just that weird
like
new
that?
kid.
Hey there, kid. You swiveling
being called
your
Elvis.
hips. I imagine you looking like Forrest Gump doing the hips. What a dick. Maybe they called you Elvis because you were fat. I mean, I hate to say it, Eric, but you were a little chunky kid.
Yeah, but nobody thinks of fat Elvis.
Did you end up, did you have a karate outfit on? Were you maybe dressed like you look like
I dressed like Captain Marvel Jr.?
I was going to say Captain Marvel / Evil Knievel. Are you doing karate chops at any point?
No.
You probably were doing karate chops.
I had a button-down flannel shirt.
Did you show up the first time you met your friends? Did you show up with a peanut butter, banana, and bacon sandwich? Then say, hey, my mama came with that.
It's just Elvis, and it's stuck. I had a girl from the neighborhood, like in a bar, like 10 years ago, who called me Elvis. Yeah.
She's never been seen again.
Honestly, I haven't seen her since. But the thing is, then I felt bad because I threw something out there because I've been drinking that people used to call her tissue because she used to stuff her bra.
Oh, see? That's what
and then I
like.
felt like a jerk.
That's the Eric Shea that I like. You give it to him. Like, again, when they would say, hey, pizza face, I'd punch him right in the face. And then I'd say, take that, asshole. See, it works. And I'm like, actually, it was funny when people would say pizza face. I would.
And the thing is, also it was tissue because her name was Tasha, so it worked out in that way, too.
That works out fine. Also, I'm trying to think, like, nobody really, to my face, would say that much. You know, pizza face, that you know, hit
well,
the
they'd have to talk to you for that.
But I don't think I ever really had a nickname. I really, except Quick Down Combat that I made up myself now. But the idea, people used to just call me Werner or Wern. That was it.
Like, that's the thing, is I had the Elvis name through like middle school. Well. And exactly, it was Shea for pretty much, but like middle school in the neighborhood, like a select few would say Elvis. But beyond middle school, I never had that again until I'm 20-some years old, even maybe even 30 at that point, when it's like, hey, Elvis! Oh, fuck me.
Yeah, it kind of makes me a little sad that I never had a nickname. I just never had. And no way am I, like, I get really...
The worst part is I liked Elvis.
I wouldn't give myself a name. Yeah, my dad loved Elvis.
I just knew that they meant it in a negative way, so it's not going to work.
It's so funny. They, like, show up and like, hey, Dick Clark 5. Like, they people just went with it. Hey, Beach Boys. Like, all right. They just keep going. Or
just had hey, what's up, Don Cornelius?
That would be funny. Like, they end up, hey, Bootsy Collins. You're like, all right, I'll go with it. Hey, Brian Adams. That'd be pretty cool. Like, they just keep updating it down the line. Like, right now, they're like, hey, Jelly Roll. Right? You like the Jelly Roll?
No.
I know you do. Hey, Migos. What's in the crock pot, asshole?
I just saw a friend talking about it on Facebook, and I'm like, that's something, I guess.
I think Jelly Roll might be like a country mumble rapper. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
they just won an award. I say they because I don't know the pronouns if Jelly Roll was a man or a woman because I don't know anything about it.
I think it's a guy. And to me, Jelly Roll ended up like, oh, Post Malone? I think I could do that. It ended up doing it. Seems like another
fat
guy.
hick rapper that we had 15 years ago. What was that guy's name? Butterball, something along those lines?
Eric
something like Joey Ball?
I thought it was you. Eric I forget who. I know who you're talking about. Nonsense.
Cornbread? I don't know.
Maybe. Cornbread. Bread bowl. Hey there. Clam chowder.
What's up, never-ending pasta bowl?
I just need, now that's what hey there, Manhattan chowder. The other day, I ended up having a spicy
some shrimp on a stick,
spicy corn and shrimp chowder that I didn't think I'd like. I loved it, Eric. It was good. Hey there, lobster bisque.
Yo, what's good, pepper steak and onions?
Oh, you make
do me a salad.
Oh my, do me a salad. Oh God. Hey there, burrito. There you go. You just have that. Hey there, chalupa. See, that starts to feel very
good. I like it.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like chalupas.
I like chalupas.
Oh, burritos.
Those are. But if you like, hey there, taco. That seems like they're getting, hateful. I don't.
Well, if you're just doing Taco Bell's menu at this point in time, yeah,
that's all they're doing. You're naming your whole crew off of the Taco Bell deal. It's like the Kaiser Sose of poor people eating fucking shit when they're high. That's what it is.
No Crunchwrap Supreme. What's good?
There are funny plays. There was a story, just a bit. Big Papi from the Red Sox. He was a teammate of Dustin Pedroia's for 19 years, forever. Never knew his name. He called him short stuff or something. And he just found out just recently that wasn't his name. He thought it was. So he could have done that. He's just saying shit. But that's it, Eric.
That's it.
Oh, I wish I had the whole Taco Bell menu that I could yell at you for. Hey there, taco fries? Whatever those things are. Are they still there?
Taco fries? No, nacho fries.
They're nacho fries, indeed. I end up where now you're saying I might have to go to Taco Bell tonight because now you're making me hungry for Taco Bell.
Good.
I haven't had Taco Bell in a long time. In fact, I went at one point, went back again and realized, wait a minute, these boxes aren't $5. What the fuck happened?
I know,
what
right?
happened to me? I ended up not going between. It really shocked me. I was really upset. But that is that World's Finest Teen Titans #5. Both of our books of
double
the
quarter
week.
pounder with cheese.
Hey, chicken nuggets. That'd be pretty cool, right?
McChicken.
Have you tried those two new sauces, the Mamba sauce and the
I haven't been to McDonald's in a long
spicy
time.
jelly or whatever? That Mamba sauce is hot as shit. You know why I went the other day? Because the Eagles got a sack.
I know exactly why.
And I got the free Big Mac and sucked again. One day, Eric, it'll be good. But here are the books we're going to talk about next week. 2 of these books will be picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew in a poll on our Patreon. And that means they will be part of the Patreon-only exclusive podcast that comes out every Thursday night, except this week, Eric.
Oh, my.
Thursday is Thanksgiving. So even everybody will get a day before. So you'll get the spotlight on a Wednesday. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool way to put up your pants. Cool. Here's what we're going to talk about, and I'll give you my guess of what will be on the spotlight. A lot of books. Batman Off-World #1, Jason Aaron's return to DC, and his first Batman story. Looks pretty cool. I mean, anybody who's read the books this week, there is a preview for it. I'm not a huge Jason Aaron fan because of what he had done at the end of his Marvel tenure, including the Avengers book that I thought was awful.
You say that Jason Aaron's coming back to DC. What did Jason Aaron do previously
with DC? He did one story about the Penguin.
Okay, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, what the fuck has he done?
He ended up doing a Penguin story right before the New 52, and then signed exclusive to Marvel, so he wasn't able to do anything else, but he's coming back for his Batman story, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I hope that it's good. Titans #5. All right. Pretty cool, right? Titans doing things. What do you think that we'll deal with Wally West maybe dying? Are we going to do Beast Boy going green? Are we going to end up doing the idea of Tamara?
All of it.
So many
all
things
of it, Jim.
Heading into Beast World, which I keep calling Beast War.
Honestly, I just want you to have that Beast Wars intro where it says Beast Wars, but just say world.
That would be pretty cool.
World.
That would be pretty cool. I ended up at one point. Now I'll have to send you something when we're done. For some reason, this reminded me of something I was going to bring up during the podcast that was pretty cool, but I didn't get to. I didn't remember it, Eric. I don't know why I'm bringing it up. You have Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong #2. First issue was a little disappointing.
Get into that kaiju action.
Yeah, but that's what you needed. I needed less of Will You Marry Me and more of Monster Island. You have Nightwing number 108.
The idea of Will You Marry Me, going through the entire DC roster at that point. I don't know, you're getting hitched. I don't know if that's a good idea. No, that's a great idea, Clark. Yeah, you had more of that than the actual getting to the Will You Marry Me.
It's so funny that we're talking like it's a little too much story going on, or at least story not involving kaijus. So,
but it still sounded. The characters still sounded great for what they were doing with it. You just want kaijus at that point, though.
Yeah, we wanted monsters. Nightwing number 108, Pirate there.
Yeah, Pirate Nightwing. Yeah,
Dick Grayson. Catwoman number 59. Usually I wouldn't say that I'm excited about that, but I don't know
what's happening in that book. What's going on?
I want to see what Teenie Howard thinks is happening after the Gotham War, because that's what we're going to.
Valmont is Duchess.
I made the call that Catwoman was going to get superpowers from that meteorite, and one of them would be 9 lives. And
I said, that's ridiculous. Why would they do the same thing from Wildcat to Catwoman?
And you say that, the new solicits pretty much pointed that out and said exactly this is what's going to happen, where Amanda Waller wants one of those 9 lives. Now I'm like, maybe they're playing a little wordplay there, but it seemed like it wasn't. We'll see. We'll have to see. Batman Superman World's Finest number 21. The Kingdom Come stuff, I guess, continues.
Oh, that's right.
So
I'm sitting here like, cool. What happened in that? But that makes sense. Yeah,
a lot of these books feel like we haven't had in a long while. I think that
Boy Thunder, who's now, was it Man Thunder? What was his new name? But he's pissed at Superman. He's going to take his revenge.
Yes. Wonder Woman number 3, but I believe, a Trinity backup. So that would be cool. You like it a little more than me, but I'm not hating it completely.
I still thought the Amazon's Attack was better than the last issue.
Yeah, it did a lot of the heavy lifting. Jay Garrick, The Flash, number 2. The Boom, Eric.
The Boom.
The Legion of Boom, as you said. I'm looking forward to that. That, again, that has the hook. That has, Judy, and we like Judy from Lost Children. So that's all I need, a little hook. Superman, just like the Blues Traveler song. You know what that song's called? Hook. I like that song. Superman number 8. I'm sitting there like, and things are starting to swirl together with the act. But
I get it.
We got the chain. He's
that's
the
right.
hook
The
on
chain.
the chain, just like your wallet.
Wait. Was the chain in that book? Yeah, okay. Because the thing is, we had the rest of the Super Family show up, and then I got confused with Action Comics.
But we also have the Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm getting mixed up with what's her name.
I think
from
that
the Blue Earthers as well.
You had Graph there as well.
Yeah. So we have that. We have all that going on.
Superman's doing a lot right now.
I have the book.
It's okay.
Oh my! Green Lantern War Journal number 3. In case you didn't know, Eric's in love with that fucking book. It's not selling well.
I understand the book, and I look forward to what they're doing, bringing more story to the idea of the Mortal Guardian. I've never heard you
tell me you
John
understand
Stewart.
Jess, so I think you love it, and you end up where I think
women.
I think that Green Lantern War Journal, Philip Kennedy Johnson. I think it needs to. Is it like dumb itself down a bit, or it needs to become more, grabbable?
We gotta
like
stop
your
that.
ass, right?
Look, we gotta stop that Revenant Queen. She infected people with this weird multiversal and ring that she has. Instead, at the end of the last issue, they infected Jon Stewart.
It needs some more mass appeal. It needs something where just a random person can show up and say, "Oh my God, that's cool." It's very
well. Hopefully, all the Jon Stewart fans come out for it.
Yeah, but I saw what little sales and those sort of numbers, and it's not doing very well, which I can tell why. It's a weird story.
It's a lot of heavy lifting to get into it.
Hawkgirl number 5. Heavy lifting, Eric. That book stinks.
Galaxy number 5.
That book stinks on ice. It does, but every book can turn it around. As we've seen, most of these seem to do it on issue 5 or 6. So maybe it'll do it. I doubt it. I don't get the concept of that book or why we even have it.
What's Galaxy going to do to turn against Hawkgirl now that we know that Vulpecula went back in time and offered her something?
I don't know. I don't know. And it also seemed to inspire Vulpecula. And so do you think that it's going to be Galaxy turning the deal, or is this going to end up where Vulpecula realizes that I had it all within me all along and I love all that?
I don't know. Her ass still wants to go to Nth World. She's a fox monster.
Nth World. Yeah, that's true. That's weird. Cyborg number 5, another one.
Another weird book.
It's odd. That book.
Cyborg can't catch a break.
No. And I wish we couldn't. But you end up this Cyborg book, like every issue seems like it's like, oh my God, it's like new. Things just pop up and happen. I don't get it. But I think that if this is the lineup, Batman Offworld #1 will definitely be on the spotlight. That
makes sense.
And I would like to think that the other one would be Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. That seems like the deal, but it could also be, I don't know. Like some of these, like a lot of the votes will be like, some people would want to hear us talk about Wonder Woman on this, but other people will want us to hear about, I'm saying those I think like even each other out, and I think that it will be Batman Offworld and Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong #2, which just kind of makes sense. And that feels like a cool spotlight. So again, that may not be it, but the only way to find out and to listen to it is to go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/weirdscience. All these things that we talk about, including that, will be in the show notes that you can click if you don't remember that. And you can help us out for everything we do here and get a ton of shows, not just that spotlight, but reading clubs for things like Hellboy, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got a Miller World deal. We have a year one that right now me and my man Zach are going through Robin Year One, which is really, really good.
Love that.
Things like Crisis Events podcast that me and Matt Razor do, where while it's a Marvel thing, we're going through 2015 Secret Wars, which is pretty cool as well. So with all of that, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. As I said, check the show notes. You can check out our Patreon, our YouTube channel, our website, everything in a bag of chips. So all that is done. Eric, what do we say at the end of the podcast?
Everybody have a great week. Keep it weird. And we'll see you in 7.
See you in 7.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Must be Ra's al Ghul reborn.